It's Friday, and I like Fridays. Welcome to the AM show on Joy News, your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and you know I do this with
Benjamin Akako. It's a pleasure to host you this Friday morning. We have just the juicy lineup that you'd be looking for, starting with the news courtesy of Sweetie Abochi, and right after that we get into the news review. Guess who joins us? Dr. Michael Ayamga, development economist and senior lecturer at the University for Development Studies. From there, we get into sports, and then, well, Sweetie will tell us what we have in our big stories. But even before that, I'll be sharing with you my blunt thoughts, of course. And today, in Seminar Dawson, but I've titled it Lapses, Taxes, and Crises, the Ghanaian Story.
I'm looking forward to hearing Benjamin come raw and diluted, giving it hot on his blunt thoughts. But after that, you know, we get into our big stories. What are we doing for our big stories today? I don't know if you've been following, but Vice President and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Bawumia, has emphatically rejected the practice of LGBTQ+ in Ghana. In his first public commentary on the raging issue, Dr. Bawumia mince no words in completely shooting it down, while addressing thousands of Muslims in Kumasi during the observation of Eid prayers. So we will analyze this, what this really means for his campaign, and the quest by almost everyone to get President Akufo-Addo to assent to his bill. Our guest for that conversation, Most Reverend Dr. Paul K. Boafo, presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Professor Kobby Mensah, political marketer at UGBS, and Dennis Miracles Abwaje, communications director for Dr. Bawumia's campaign team. You want to stay for that conversation.
My question to you on the back of that, though, many people had asked the Vice President to speak up on the matter. Now he's spoken up. But what are your reflections on the back of what he had to say? Interesting times. It reminds me of the Clerk of Parliament and that recent communication from Parliament back to the executive. But anyway, also on the show, there are talks between the transport unions and government over a possible increase in transport fares. Now, the unions say this is because of an increase in fuel, the cost of fuel products. Many commuters are against this, and we juxtapose this with the current inflationary trends. The Ghana Statistical Service says the rate for March 2024 increased sharply to 25.8% from 23.2% recorded in February 2024. We'll give you a breakdown of that. Now, you know, in the Western region, there had been some moves for an increment of about 30%. But where do we stand? What is inflation doing to the transport system? And how does it impact you out there? Well, we'll be having that discussion with Duncan Amwa, Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, and Samuel Amwa, Deputy PRO, GPRT. All the Amwes will be on that conversation.
And then we'll come to you to have your say, because all these conversations, these topics are important to you and I. Like he says, Ubuntu, we are because you are. So join us for the rest of the show. From now to 10 a.m., we are your hosts, and welcome to the AM News. Time now for the news. Let's get into it. Welcome to the program. This is the AM News. Let's get right into it. The Ghana Cocoa Board has clashed with mining firm Megop Mining Limited over alleged attempt to destroy over 4,308 hectares of cocoa farms in search of gold in 5 communities in the Echimwa-Mbieja South District, South District of the Ashanti region. Presently, the mining company is prospecting for gold on 120 hectares of cocoa farm, majority of which is under rehabilitation by Cocoa Board. Now, according to the regulator, the farms are being destroyed without proper authorization from Cocoa Board as required by law, an allegation refuted by the mining company. Nanaya Aljima visited the area and has come through with this report.
Prospecting for gold is already underway in communities like Brahabebome, Impoyem, and Ouagadougou in the Nkaria Cocoa District. Apoyem and Bronsako are among areas targeted for mining activities. According to some farmers, the mining company has already taken measurements of their farms, proposing some compensation.
After measuring the farm, they pegged the price at 10,000 cedis per acre. They told us the land has been given to them by government, so if we do not take the money, they will forcefully mine the area.
The media no dear, yen susu baku, ya susu baku. Na you see, and Tiasia, 100 million there, me they taught me they call him. Into yam penny. And they say the Koda Kuku board for say more and into no more. Yen Tiasia. And they said,
Presently, Megop Mining Limited has commenced works on 169 hectares of land, destroying some economic trees. Public Relations Officer of Megop Mining, Richard Jesse, explains the extent of destruction caused so far.
So now we are in the exploration stage. We are now coming to development stage before you start the mining. So we are not destroying the crops as it has been portrayed. No, nothing at all. But sometimes when you pass this road to come to this area, definitely, 1 or 2 crops may be affected. Then we pay for it. Government approved price. You understand?
Cocoa production in the country has been on decline since 2021, dropping from 1 million metric tons to 480,000 metric tons in 2024. In April 2022, the Ghana Cocoa Board reviewed over 19,000 hectares of cocoa farms had been destroyed as a result of illegal gold mining activities, a figure likely to increase by close of this year. Statistics from the Cocoa Board have reviewed the 4,300 hectares of cocoa farm targeted for mining produces cocoa beans worth 316 million cedis annually. Head of Anti-Illegal Mining Unit of Cocoa Board, Professor Michael Kwatin, reveals the company failed to seek appropriate authorization from the Cocoa Board before embarking on the activity.
When you go to the regulation of Mineral Commission, the Mineral Mining Acts 703, if you read the section 18, subsection 1 and 2, it tells you that mining companies are supposed to contact, bodies that regulate, that farm, whether cocoa or whatever. So they are evaluating, that aspect of their law, their own law, and mining companies are taking advantage of the system, destroying our cocoa everywhere. Yes, but what is happening? From here, we are going to take action and ensure that, they are brought to the law. I mean, Cocoa Board now, we are now using the Economic Plant Protection Act. That is what we are using to protect the cocoa.
In protecting cocoa farms from the threats of illegal mining, the Cocoa Board is strengthening partnership with the Minerals Commission. Professor Kwatin again.
We are planning to ensure that whenever there's any concession to be given, Cocoa Board will be involved, so that when it comes to the inspection, our officers will be part of the inspectorate division to ensure that really whatever concession will be given, there wouldn't be any cocoa farm or tree affected.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Nkari.
The Ghana Revenue Authority is educating clients on its online portal for tax payment. The exercise is being used to sensitize individuals, employees and companies on the need to promptly file their monthly tax returns for accountability. Chief Revenue Officer at the Cape Coast South Office of the GRA, Kenneth Victor's Kofi Toby, says the appreciation of people in the payment of taxes is low, hence the need to embark on this education.
Tax and then good governance. The aim is to educate the taxpayers about their obligations. And normally what we do is that we go around or we invite them and then educate them on filing. For example, at the end of the year and by the close of April, you need to file your returns. If you are not able to file, or if you don't file your returns, the system generates penalty. And the penalty is the day, the end of December, if you don't file your returns, that day is 500. And each day that the return is not filed is 10 cedis. So we are advising the public, both individuals and companies, to file their returns. Because if you apply for tax clearance certificate and you have not filed the returns, the system will not accept you. And if you go ahead to file to the system will generate penalty. And because of that, a lot of taxpayers are having problems. So what we are trying to do is to go around and educate them to file their returns. For example, we have the individuals. The individuals, your year of assessment is, we call it a calendar year, from 1st or January to December 31st. You have to file it. Employees, they have to file it. So I am announcing to all the employees, wherever you are, please file your returns. Otherwise, when you need something like tax clearance certificate, it will be difficult for you. You have to pay a penalty before the system clears you. Then companies too. There are some companies also, their a year of assessment is January to December. But there are some too, their year of assessment, we call it accounting year, from maybe June to July. So when it ends at June, count 4 months and file. So that is the company. Normally this thing is the multinationals that have their accounting year or their year of assessment different from the calendar year, because they are multinationals. They have they normally prepare group accounts, so they always want their year of assessment to correspond with their parent companies. So that is what we are trying to do now. To file, everybody should file his returns. Otherwise, when you go or you apply, even online, the system will reject you. You have to file it. That's the purpose of this. Filing of returns in Cape Coast South. As at now, our rate of filing is around between 75 to 80%.
In other stories, outgoing Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Binali has appealed to the leadership of the various Muslim sects in the country to eschew all forms of fundamentalism and extremism in order not to allow agents of destruction to infiltrate their ranks. Rafiq Salam had the rest of the story.
The meeting of the Crescent on Tuesday brought an end this year's fasting in the holy month of Ramadan in the country. During this period, the Muslims did not only abstain from taking food or drinking water, but also refrain from all forms of social vices and nefarious activities. Both the young and the old, including persons who have mobility challenges, were wheeled to the judiciary class of schools guardians for the 2 rakat open congregational prayer. Upper West Regional Missionary of the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, Molvi Muzaffar Chaudhry Masur Ahmed, led the prayer. He followed it up with the Eid sermon, where he spoke about the importance of the holy month of Ramadan.
So if we are able to follow the teachings of the Holy Quran, we can see that there will be peace in the whole world. So that was the message from our worldwide Khalifa. So I emphasize on this point that if we are going to take step by step the teachings of the Holy Quran in our practical life, then we can achieve our month of Ramadan's exercise and we can really celebrate the Eid al-Fitr.
Turning to electoral violence, Molvi Muzaffar Masur Ahmed noted that Islam is a peaceful religion and so too are its followers. He is, however, deeply worried to the marrow when names of some Muslims post up on issues in electoral violence, giving the religion a bad name. He therefore called on Muslim youth in the country not to allow themselves to be used as tools to foment trouble during the electioneering period.
We Muslims should be the peaceful Muslims to create the peace into the country. So when I hear this thing that Muslims, they are spreading the hate or the violence in the country, I'm so sorry But if we are able to implement the teachings of the Holy Quran in our practical lives, I think that there will be peace. And our Muslim people, when they will also listen to me, I'm hopeful that they can be very peaceful, and they will also guide to the people to remain peaceful for the country.
Outgoing Upper Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Binali was also present at the garden. His grandfather, Imam Binali, laid the foundation stone for the Ahmadiyya movement in the Wali enclave some 90 years ago. Dr. Binali appealed to the leadership of the Muslim Ummah in the country to rescue religious fundamentalism and extremism in order not to allow agents of destruction to infiltrate their ranks.
Due to religious differences, developments in some parts of West Africa's sub-region and other parts of Africa, notably Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Mali, are unfortunate and regrettable. I want to use this opportunity to appeal to our Muslim leaders to eschew fundamentalism and not allow agents of destruction to infiltrate our ranks.
Dr. Binali is moving to the Upper East region in a mini reshuffle announced by President Akufo-Addo.
As you may be aware, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, has moved me to the Upper East region as regional minister.
And now, the Cultivating New Frontiers in Agriculture group has started processes to implement its 5-year pro-cashew development program in the West African cashew sector. Country representative of the program, Eric Hienobotir, says this will improve the income of cashew growers in the implementing areas by providing them with alternative sources of income. Anasabit has more.
The 5-year USDA West Africa Pro-Cashew Development Program was implemented by Cultivating New Frontiers in Africa and with the sole aim of increasing farmers' productivity and efficiency and boosting the cashew trade by improving harvest and post-harvest techniques, as well as supplying chain linkages between farmers and agro-foods companies in the 5 intervention countries. The program, which is in its 5th and final year, is today highlighting the outcomes and impacts of the activities undertaken over the past 5 years. Eric Hienobotir is the Ghana country representative of the USDA West Africa Pro-Cashew Project.
The West African Pro-Cashew Project is working in 5 countries. That's Ghana, Benin, Burkina, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. And for we those in Ghana, the mandate is to support to increase cashew production and then improve quality. And we work through the Department of Agriculture with the support of Ministry of Agric and other collaborating partners like 3CDA and then the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana.
The project also seeks to support these cashew farmers through renovation and rehabilitation of their farms to boost quality and productivity.
Purpose is to make sure that cashew farmers are able to get more yield and then also get more quality and also more money. All is to alleviate poverty and also make sure farmers have a good life and well-being for themselves and their family.
Eric also noted that these beneficiary farmers were also taken through other alternative farming methods, which includes intercropping and beekeeping. This, he said, was to help provide them with other sources of funds to complement seasons where they fail to have good cashew harvests.
We are also coming to supplement and complement what the government of Ghana is doing. That's what Pro-Cashew is here to support. And so we take farmers through renovation and rehabilitation. When we say renovation and rehabilitation, we mean that there are old cashew farms which are no more fruiting. And so we have to bring in new techniques of how to prune and give better qualities to these trees to start fruiting again. So these are some of the trainings we give.
Kipo Memuna works with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in the Sola Tuna Kalba district. She has been working with the Pro-Cashew project since its implementation 5 years ago. Memuna tells me the project has been beneficial to farmers within her district, adding that she has equally benefited from the various trainings implemented by Pro-Cashew.
This project has been beneficial to me, especially because I've learned a lot on cashew production from Pro-Cashew, from new establishment, how to land preparation to post-harvest and marketing. I've learned a lot, and I think the farmers are also benefiting from it.
Another beneficiary of the project, a farmer in the Bole Bamboy district, narrates how the new project helped in the prevention of bushfires in the area.
I'm very thankful to Pro Cashew because they have already bring a lot of impact to my life and to other farmers within that area. Because Pro Cashew has helped our farms this year to have low fire burn outage. I can say that most of our farms couldn't burn this year because of the training they have given to us.
Municipal Director of Agriculture for Tano North, Godfred Ezena, on his part lauded the project, which he says helped in the growth of cashew in the district, but was quick to appeal for its continuity to enable more farmers benefit from the project.
I think once Pro Cashew is in, it has really helped most of my farmers, and I would like it to continue, which is going to help my farmers in the district.
Also present at the event are key stakeholders in the cashew value chain, including representatives from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Sunyani.
For final story in this bulletin, the Evangelical Presbyterian Church, with support from its partners, has expanded its health center at Tongo, Gemeni in the South Dai district of the Volta region. The expansion works saw the provision of an equipped maternity and intensive care unit for babies to augment maternal health care to reduce mortality in the area. There's more in this following report.
The Evangelical Presbyterian Health Center is one of the few facilities serving the South Dai district in the Volta region. On the daily, about 100 clients visit the facility, which has limited space to operate, leading to congestion. The structure contains an open patient department, wards, a maternity unit, a pharmacy, a lab, and store, among others. Right Reverend Lieutenant Colonel Bliss Divine Agbeko, retired, is the moderator of the EP Church.
Community here, we have a large population. They are at the river bank, they are farming in those places, they are fishermen, and they come over to trade, do market activities, and also attend healthcare. And so this is the major healthcare facility in the area that they can, come to for help. The block you see right in front of us where I'm pointing my hand is the general healthcare facility where we do clinics for the people, and we have few beds, less than 20 beds over there, and there they do delivery, they do the general physician work kind of thing. But we realize that the rate at which they give birth over here, we need to give them a separate ward.
In partnership with the Presbyterian Church USA, a spacious maternity unit has been constructed under the organization's Ghana Maternity Ward Partnership Project. The Rotary Club also supported in furnishing the facility.
And so, with the help of PCE USA members, they contributed money to help us put up a new facility that can take about 20 women in labor at a time. And then they have also helped us to equip the facility with all that is necessary in the maternity ward. I mean, even children born before time, they have the incubators to take care. They have all the complements over there so that they can serve the community. And it's a way of taking the load off this common building over here that does everything. So now we have a separate ward that is able to do it with the full facility. And we thank God and we thank our neighbors, our brethren for this. We hope to expand further.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Tongo, Germany.
And that's it for the AM News, but there's still more to come. Now we get into the conversation, starting with the newspaper review. Dr. Michael Ayamga is our guest for that segment. Join us.
Welcome back on the news review. Sweetie Abochi has decided to go mom on this one. I was baiting her to see how she would react, and she actually got me there. Do you know what he just reminded me of? There's this player who's basketball player, former NBA player from way back, and he did something that made Kobe Bryant, back then, may his soul rest in peace, get him to be drafted into the Lakers. He was very hard on Kobe, and Kobe at that time was seen to be this, after Michael Jordan and all of that. And at a point, they are playing a match, and he fakes the ball at Kobe. He's literally face-to-face with Kobe, and he does this. And Kobe doesn't flinch. Like, Kobe doesn't and the temerity for him to have done that. Got Kobe.
I see what you mean there.
By. So you just reminded me of that. But welcome aboard the news review. Time now for us to get into the papers. Right before we do, though, the segment always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. You want to check out those, whether you're male or female. What's going on there? Just find out. Reach out to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic at any of their branches. Accra, they can be located at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma Abuehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takra Daneaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Nzema. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review, and we're joined by development economist, senior lecturer, as well at the University for Development Studies, Dr. Michael Ayamga. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to see you.
All right. It's good to have you too. Sweetie Abochi is also here. We'll be interacting with you. But before we get there, I just wanted to say this. Life can be very interesting. I'm sure you followed the news about Mawina Treba, Ne Dumo, and everything in between. And I couldn't help it. I really felt some pain. You remember when Dr. John Kuma passed, how I felt about it. And this...
Did you know her personally?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
I do. And her age and everything in between. It sort of reminded me of my own situation, because losing my father when I was 6, the impact on my mom, and then our eldest brother, 3 boys, our eldest also passing in 2009. Again, my mom. So it was like, wow, double whammy. And for him, I stand corrected. I hear he's lost his wife. Of course, we know of Komla and now Mawina. And it's like, Charlie.
What is happening?
Prof, I don't know whether you're watching, but our sincere condolences to you. No one would wish this on anybody, not even your worst enemy. This is hard.
Our condolences to the family.
This is hard. Anyway, Dr. Ayamga, you have just about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Dr. Ayamga. And then Sweetie Abochi will take us to the Daily Graphic newspaper. Over to you, Doc.
Yes, I also want to join in with you to wish Prof. Bawumia all the best, with a lot of comfort. I can't imagine as a parent growing old and then burying my kid. That is something you cannot imagine how someone is holding on to. So at this point, our prayers are with him and the family.
Right.
We also pray that at least God help all of us. That's what I'll put in this morning. What I want to talk about, I think, is the Vice President finally making a statement on the LGBTQ+. On each day, I think that I would say it's rather too late, but it shows indecisiveness and lack of leadership. And I would have wished that, just like Parliament have done, there would have been some leadership from the Flagstaff House. I already said I want a law that allows us to be able to discuss this thing dispassionately as researchers and so on. And last week, when I was talking on the issue of the poll by Dankwa and Co. Info Analytics, I did mention the issue of the inclusion of a non-binary indicator of sex. I wanted to show something that, as a researcher, you can make that mistake, and this law would have punished Info Analytics for just that. Sometimes we take these things down from, let's say, more standardized research formats. We use softwares that assume automatic or default positions and add these things there. If we have this law, somebody could have taken info analytics on for promoting LGBTQ values in the country. So that is where some of us are worried about this law. It has nothing to do with the rights, it has nothing to do with our values or here and there. We think that we want something that can allow us to talk about it, learn about the issue, progress. That is how society has progressed. Today, murder is not, people are taking death penalty off the table because people have continued to talk about it. Any law that prevents us from studying and understanding anything is not good for humanity. So that's the position I am coming in today. But the vice president has, as usual, says one thing and does the other. And if people want to watch what he would do, you just have to play his sound bites, the ones we were playing here before this program started. Everything he said was not done, and I don't expect this thing to be different. He has remained largely mute about this thing. He's a trained economist, he's run away from that one, and now presenting amateur stuff as a digitalization for vets. And he's also running late on this one, something that he ought to have showed leadership, decisiveness, and his ability to provide.
But Doc, just to interject briefly, and we have little time left so we can get into the papers. Better late than never. They say. People have called, and I agree, it's been a long time people have called on him to say something, but he finally has. And he talks about it. He says, and I'm just looking at what as a Muslim, my view on this matter aligns with the position of my religious faith. The Holy Quran is replete with verses frowning on LGBTQI plus acts. And then he goes on and on. He says, I cannot support that which my religion and indeed all the major religions in Ghana clearly and unequivocally forbid. And he's talking about Christianity, Islam, even traditional religion. And he says, I stand opposed to it now, and I will stand opposed to it as president, inshallah. Does that not suffice? What else do you want from him?
No, he's leading from behind. You better late than never is for followers. When you are a leader, you don't make those decisions. Sometimes people who follow you don't get a chance to do it all over again. And his loud silence on this issue for a very long time, even to the point when Parliament had reached a consensus and it was a bipartisan move, he was still largely quiet, still was moving from church to church, misquoting the Bible, instead of leading us on something that was very important for this country going forward. The Vice President of the United States of America and others came before them and made statements. The Vice President never saw the need to make a statement afterwards. No one is saying it should be draconian, but we need decisiveness.
Okay.
I have stated that people are not happy with it. I have stated it. I'm not happy with the law because it's dragnet. I will state that anytime, anywhere. I expected the Vice President to state that. Former President John Dramani Mahama was decisive on this one. Late President John Ivasa his soul rest in peace, was decisive on this thing. We expect a leader to show forthrightness. It is hindsight, having seen that the people of Ghana are taking this thing as an issue. It is a topical issue for the elections.
All right.
Just like he said he
would
grow the economy and hasn't done it. This is a statement I'll take in that light. Based on the history of the Vice President, his posturing and his actions.
All right. Thank you very much. Sweetie, you know, it's interesting because just over the weekend, you know, Scotland has this new hate law, sort of, which also involves trans people, transgender and all of that. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, has been very open in some of these things about biology. You would have heard Rishi Sunak, the UK PM, also talk about biologically, if you're a man, you're a man. Biologically, if you're a woman, and all of that. So it's interesting because in Scotland, they have this hate law that some say goes against the grain of parts of the Constitution. Rishi Sunak has waded in. These conversations will be... They'll be with us. But let's get into the papers.
Yes, but I just want to add that it looks like there are so many differing opinions stemming from this LGBTQ conversation. Yesterday, when I spoke to Bridget Jogbenuku, she said this is not the time for Ghanaians to be jailing anyone who chooses to love in a way that's not normal to the rest of us. So, and I saw that there was some backlash saying that you cannot say love is love when we have, cultural practices and all that.
I saw you post, what do you call it? Is it a reel or something? A clip? A clip, yes, on Facebook. I just took a brief look at it and I smiled and moved on. I knew it.
Anyway, but let's get into the paper. On the front page of the Daily, we've obviously dissected that story. Islam opposes LGBTQ. I can't support the practice. That is from Dr. Bawumia. And we've just reacted to that story. So let's get into the paper. On page 13, Ghana hosts Cashew Industry Conference. And I want to do this story because I've heard you, wax lyrical about the cashew industry and, the benefits we stand to gain from that. Now, Ghana will be hosting the 6th Council of Ministers Conference on the Consultative International Cashew Council to promote issues related to the cashew value chain. Alongside the conference would be a cashew research dialogue, cashew fair, and an exhibition in Accra. These events will start from Tuesday, April 16th, and end on Saturday. 11 countries with 22 trade and agriculture ministers are expected to attend the conference at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel. I cannot say that this is not a welcoming news because from the little I know about cashew, it can even bring us more money than cocoa if we...
Way more than... per ton, per kilo, per... I mean... So on the streets, when you ask for that little bit of cashew, how much does it cost?
Expensive. They have a tiny little bottle where it's sold for about 25 cedis.
No.
Oh, okay,
well, I don't know whether you're talking
of... A very tiny bottle,
like
have you seen my Yokubi container?
Okay, because cashew is really expensive.
Yeah.
There was a plan way back to do something in the Bono area, what used to be Bronga Hafo, now, split into different parts and all of that. I feel, and that's where, the other day I was talking about Burkina Faso and what they call red gold, strawberry.
Yes.
I feel I don't know what it is with our leaders, but that just as now more than ever, people have learned that you need different sources of income.
Yeah.
It's the same way as a country. You're relying so heavily on cocoa and all of that. Now,
and
because
even
of
that,
balancing,
have you heard what's happening with the cocoa?
I know. And even farmers feel insulted by the increments based on the world prices over $9,000, close to $10,000. But I'm just saying that we've not diversified enough as a country because cashew, I worked once with an entity, I don't want to sound promotional, that has a 55,000 square meter facility in Pram. I've been to Brazil on the back of this. I know the value chain. I know so much about cashew. Sometimes, if I had the kind of money, I would go into cashew farming.
You should.
But as a country, how we can't get our act together. Because, yes, it is seasonal, but there are ways of going about it. And even instead of some of the imported ones, we could have it all locally driven and and even export. But no.
It is what it is. Dr. Ayamga, do you want to react to this quickly before I get into another story on the Daily Graphic? We have about 22...
Yes, definitely. I'll just bend to lament on our failure to optimize our potentials in cashew. I have done a lot of work on cashew. I used to do some research around it in the Brown Afro region, Savannah region now. Huge potential. I remember even for the World Bank Skills Development Fund, I did do some work for them, and we highlighted the potential of this. It is an issue of non-focus, or sometimes you tend to think that if something is not benefiting some demographics in this country, the agency to develop it is not there. It looks like some people are afraid to have another powerhouse in the crop that competes for cocoa. So the lack of will to invest in the sector to create a strong, robust support system to enhance both production, assembly, and exporters. Mind-boggling. And we can't go around looking for opportunities to develop this country when this huge gold pot is sitting before us. Going forward, I will immediately institute a cashew development fund, talking like the president anyway, that will see to the optimization of the cashew value chain and will pump all the needed resources and manpower into it. It has something that has the potential to revolutionize our agricultural sector, diversify our crop income, so that we don't all depend on cocoa. Anytime something goes wrong with cocoa, then we catch cold. I think that our overdependence on cocoa and now the recent apparent neglect of the sector, coupled with the misfortunes we are having with our petroleum industry, I believe that diversification into some of these things is key for our development, and we need to tackle it. Put in the money there and not be afraid.
Hopefully this Cashew Industry Conference will be the beginning of broadening our horizon and how we can make more money from the industry. But moving on, NPP endorses Farouk Mahama as END parliamentary candidate. I don't know if you're following the story. During the NPP primaries, the two Mahamas, Abiba Shaini Mahama and Farouk Mahama, and a ballot box that was snatched, somebody was beaten, and now all of a sudden, the EC did mention that they'll do a rerun of the elections.
Right.
But now it appears the NPP have endorsed Farouk Mahama as a END parliamentary candidate. We didn't hear anything about a rerun of elections, and there are obviously differences in the figures that were presented.
Well, the last time we had an interaction with Dr. Amachi Boateng and Dr. Asa Asante, one of them also made mention of the fact that, listen, you have to find out what is in the MPP's constitution. And yes, they all call on the EC to conduct these elections for them, but they may not technically be bound by, because they could use some other entity or some other formula. It just says something, though, about the fact that an election was conducted, because we see the EC as, primus inter pares when it comes to this. And, well, maybe the NEC, the National Executive Committee of the MPP, knows something we don't, and that is why they've gone ahead.
Endorse him.
We are not members of the party. We don't, so we'll leave them to do what they want.
Dr. Yamga, quick reactions?
Yes, I remember I was on set the very day of the elections when this incident happened. And put MPP constitution aside, this is a snapshot of our electoral commission conducting elections, a problem arising, and the electoral commission solving it. If this is how the EC is going to solve electoral problems and disputes, if this is how the EC is going to manage elections, then we'll have a big problem in our hands. This is a situation where there was some disagreement about the results of an election. Then party officials came in and declared results of that election on TV. The results of those elections were supposed to be in the custody of the Electoral Commission, who handed those results over to party executives. It's still a huge problem, and we need to address it. There are already concerns that the ruling government has some backdoor channels into the strong room of the Electoral Commission. And when you have an election happening and the party officials arriving and getting the results, when the EC has not declared them, it is problematic. Now, to jump to a point where the party has gone ahead to more or less select a candidate, the Electoral Commission has not told us anything about the elections. We have a big problem. So I'm not worried about what the MPP constitution says. If they want, they shouldn't have even held an election. The people can go unopposed, but they still have to be protected sometimes with the people. I'm thinking that by this singular act, they are probably opening up the Yendi seat, which is a very, very strong MPP seat, to possible snatch by the MPP, because there is still a whole lot of rancor and dissatisfaction within the ranks of the party. And I believe that it's not everything that you can use internal party mechanism to solve. People have been witness to these kinds of things. Anytime you have these things happen, big names in the elections fall. And I'm going to say that we need to watch out for unity. But I think it's a shame on the Electoral Commission for their handling and management of that election. If this is how they are running our elections, then we are in for trouble.
Why is it a shame on them? Yes, they have a report on that, but they gave their verdict and called for a rerun. The party decided not to do that. It's an internal party matter. Why is it a shame on the EC? Why is it a blot on them?
I'm talking of the leadership of the issue. I remember on the day of the issue, as I told, I was on TV discussing it, local TV in Tamale. At the point that the party was issuing statements here and there, the Electoral Commission was nowhere to be found. So even for the Electoral Commission to show leadership, to demonstrate that it is on top of issues when it mattered most, it wasn't there. And key questions have still not been answered. Is it possible for someone on elections day to hijack an election process and declare results and nothing happens? the security agencies didn't do it. They didn't interpret this thing as causing fear and panic or trying to cause civil unrest. If I said this, I probably would be behind bars. But this is a situation where people who are not supposed to have access to election results have come to declare it. Let's wait, God forbid, that on election day, December, somebody decides to do the same thing that the MPP executives have done. What will happen? They have done this in Yendi, they have gone away with it. There is no condemnation of it. There is no posturing of disapproval from the Electoral Commission. They just keep quiet and say it's the internal party matter. It's a dress rehearsal for what will happen in 2024. And if people can stand on national TV, shortchange and cut the Electoral Commission off an ongoing election and declare results, we ought to be worried about that, not what the Electoral Commission issues after that. So for me, I think that it's a dent on the credibility of the Electoral Commission, one that has been built by a very dedicated individuals like Kojo Afarijan and Charlotte Osei going forward. The current behavior of the Electoral Commission is putting a serious dent on the credibility of the EC. And the earlier we talk about it without any equivocation, the better for us going forward.
Right. We just 7 months more to go into these elections. Let's see how that goes. But there are more stories in the Daily Graphic newspaper. You can grab a copy for yourself, like don't interfere in child trafficking cases. Politicians and chiefs advised. GIFEC donates some 450 visually impaired equipment with ICT to some schools, and many other stories in the Daily Graphic. Let's move on now to the New Finder and just do some quick headlines. And if you want to react to any story, then I'll get into that story. Minister urges Muslims to pray for restoration of peace in Boko. On this penny shrinking issue, 3 grabbed for beating students. Yesterday, Wednesday was it? Benjamin was talking about how... Man, this country. Hospital-acquired infections cost Ghana $1.57 billion annually. 288 voter registration centers ready. That is the EC saying to add 775 more soon. Former president donates to Muslims in Ada. Ghana not granted approval for 14 million seeds for cultivation. These are just some headlines in the New Finder newspaper. And then ECG rejects alleged forex manipulation deal with Fidelity Bank. Do we get into any of these stories, or should we move on to...
Why don't we just get into them, and then when we come...
Well, I'm looking at the time. Dr. Ayamga, you have something to say?
Yes, I want to look at the Boko conflict because it hit close to home. That town has become a ghost town.
Okay, so let me just read a bit of that and then to bring our audience up to speed. Mr. Stephen Yakubu, the Upper East Regional Minister, has called on the Muslim community to pray and seek the intervention of Allah to restore lasting peace and stability to Boko and other conflict-affected areas in the region. At least 200 people have lost their lives, while several others have been internally displaced as a result of protracted Boko chieftaincy conflict since its re-emergence in November 2021. The conflict is beginning to spread beyond Boko and its environs to other areas such as Binduri District and Bogatanga Municipality, posing serious concerns to lives and livelihoods. There's just a little excerpt of the story. Dr. Ayamga, you were saying?
Yeah, I said we need to address this issue because Boko was once a thriving economic hub of this country, being strategically positioned between us and our Francophone neighbors. So this conflict that has turned the town to a ghost town is worrying. I'm not trying to dispel this. I'm a Christian, charismatic, a tongue-speaking Christian, so I believe in prayer a lot. But you see, the regional minister, and for that matter, this government, has been at the forefront of escalating that conflict before. Sometimes subtly behind declared positions behind some groups. And it is this kind of inaction or apparent approval of some actions that has fueled this conflict and driven it out of proportion, and it's almost now an impossibility. So it is not God, it is human beings, it is those of them who wield authority, who should be decisive in their actions, are using this conflict for political patronage, playing politics with the lives of people and with the peace in this country. So you can't go on the day of the Eid al-Fitr and be calling for Muslims to pray. This is not an issue of prayer. It is an issue of weak leadership, complicit leadership, and a desire to weaponize some small ethnic divide for political gain. It is politicians who provide the weapons. People who should be sending food.
We cannot. Can you confirm that? That politicians, that's a claim that.
You see, from where I sit, I don't have to be mentioning names and be confirming. I believe that is the job of you, the journalist. But as a researcher, I know what I'm saying. Okay. As having people from who work under me, I know what I'm saying. And it has been there for a very, very long time. The conflict only takes a very serious dimension when some people are in power. You need to ask that question. And I'm not going to mince words about this. Okay. Some people have to be ashamed of themselves. We believe that, yes, people will fight from time to time. But when the leadership or the dispensation of the day shows forthrightness, is decisive in what it does, you don't have things escalating to this level. To the point that for several years now, Boku is now a ghost town. And the people are in the urban areas. Many of them are in the capital, Bogotá. They are agriculturists. The only thing they know is farm. They don't have land there. So you can guess what they are doing. I think that the minister ought to do better to stop saying one thing in public and believing and supporting another thing. That's what they have been doing all over. Their language behind the scenes in the matter. And I will say, no evidence. I can't have smoking gun that can lead to the prosecution of anyone. But what I've said is, who the cap fits, let him wear it. And they know who it fits.
All right, Doc.
All right, so let's get into other newspapers very quickly. I'm going to be very quick with this, Doc, and then I'll give you the opportunity of lumping your thoughts together on one or two of those issues. The Ghanaian Times, performance tracker, government executes over 13,000 projects so far. Minister of Works and Housing announces. It's been interesting, this performance tracker. Have you taken a look at some of the...
We did some analysis. Our correspondent in Ashanti region went to the Agogo factories, and most of these projects listed as completed are nowhere near even 50% complete. Some of the structures is just a foundation. And
I think this performance tracker could be problematic for government. I'll leave it at that. Okay. And today I'll get into some of what the performance tracker says in respect of some crucial issues. Among other things I'm going to look at. Fetish priest in custody for spreading false information, and then fire outbreak at Jamestown. So this fetish priest, by the way, the Kwadaso Circuit Court has remanded in prison custody a self-acclaimed fetish priest for allegedly publishing false information about the VIP Joan transport company. Emmanuel Frimpong, 24, also known as Bayfo, was said to have published the information via TikTok to allege that drivers of VIP were engaged in ritual expeditions. And his plea to a charge of publishing false information was not taken under the Electronic Communication Act. It's interesting because the book I'm reading this morning touches on some of these matters. But anyway, then 500 structures burnt, hundreds rendered homeless. Over 500 wooden structures were destroyed in a fire outbreak at a slum at Jamestown in Accra on Tuesday, and hundreds of people rendered homeless as a result. Items destroyed included personal effects, fridges, and fish. No casualty was recorded, but why am I not surprised by this? Every year, without fail, once we have these systems, I don't want to categorize any place as a slum or a shanty town, but once we have the systems or lack of systems we do, the markets and such places constantly will, because look at the congestion, look at the gadgets people are using, the gas and everything. It is mind-boggling. So we'll keep talking about these things. The Daily Guide says, Ejisu by-election, EC opens nominations, Bawumia rejects LGBTQ+, shun divisiveness, and Nana tells Ghanaians. Airport staff interdicted over cocaine smuggling. I'll just do that story briefly. So the Ghana Airports Company Limited has interdicted some staff following a recent cocaine smuggling incident at the Kotoka International Airport. The decision was contained in a statement released by the GACL following the interception of a significant quantity of illegal drugs at Brussels Airport in Belgium. According to reports, the cocaine was smuggled through KIA aboard the Moroccan national carrier Royal Air Maroc with the assistance of a GACL staff member on March 23, 2024. A Dutch national, Bianca, was apprehended at Brussels Airport with 8.5 kilograms of suspected cocaine believed to have been transported through KIA on the said date. You know what this does to our reputation as a country. And finally, the Ghanaian publisher, transport fare increase shut down. But the question is, for how long will they be able to hold on? That's the question. Doc, those are my papers. You can pick one, maximum two issues to reflect on.
Yes.
And by the way, we have 2 minutes, and we have to go. 2 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'll say that this issue of cocaine worries me a lot. But cocaine has gotten missing at the police headquarters before. A whole ship load of seized cocaine has gotten missing here. We have it wearing its face again in through TI. And they only happen if you want to connect the dots. So when we are facing very serious economic crisis and then we need all the foreign cash. So I'm not surprised that the staff is behind it. If you dig deeper and you are able to go in, you realize that some big kingpins somewhere is making it. It just doesn't happen overnight that the staff at the TIA starts to do something. The problem is that these things never see the light of the day. Even if they catch people and send them to court overnight, they turn into because somebody power has the ability to change these things. So I would say it's an embarrassment. It's the true state of who we are, what we do. Once in a while they catch them, and when they catch them, we let them go. You are here, you're a journalist, you know very, very well. This story is going to go waste. I also want to just in a minute talk about the issue of the performance tracking and the claim to have completed so many projects. I think it is a serious disservice to the people of this country. Sometimes just admit that the thing is not there, you haven't done it, and we can go forward. To normally compile books and reports like this when the supposed beneficiaries and those who are suffering under the brunt of these things get nothing. It's not only politics, but it's beginning to become a disservice and inhumane to the people of this country. Just to look good, I think that it is a crime to be doing these things. When a project is not finished and someone who has sworn the oath to treat this country with all the dignity it deserves says this, then we have to be worried as a nation. It's election year and these things are worrying for me, Ben.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Ayamga. Any final thoughts?
Well, the GACL released a statement assuring the public that the airport is still secure and able to function, and so no one should panic on the back of this cocaine story. So maybe that's something to point out. Yeah. But that's it from me.
Yes, I saw this come through. Let's quickly get there and get it sewed up. Linda Dorina Sean sent me this one. She says, a happy new year and blessed birthday to Mrs. Ursula Fiajo, a.k.a. Udia of Tema Community 4. Segco Flats, from your husband, children, mother, siblings, nieces, and nephews. We love you. That's Mrs. Ursula Fiajo, a.k.a. Udia. Anyway, and that's it. That's how we're going to sew it up. Dr. Ayamga, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. We wish you the best of the day, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And that is development economist and senior lecturer at the University for Development Studies, Dr. Michael Ayamga. Before we get into sports and that thrashing of Liverpool by Atalanta, all of that on the international front, but Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment. They're offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Reach out to them. Their branches here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronum, Abuehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takra Dianaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiaman Zema. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, bringing us to the end of the news review. Sports is up next Tuesday. Right after sports, you know how we do it. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts I'm about to share with you. And today I've titled it, Lapses, Taxes, and Crises, the Ghanaian Story. Lapses, taxes, and crises, the Ghanaian story. So more than one crisis. And I'm going to be talking about the Global Fund and some of the medicine that has become problematic because of what happened at the port. I'll talk about electricity and the real facts and figures. And I'll take a sneak peek at the performance tracker and what really has been happening. So come straight with me to the video wall. Looming health crisis, Global Fund halts deliveries to Ghana. I feel this is quite a dent on what we do, especially considering that these items go to aid those suffering HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Malaria is endemic to our part of the world. So you know what it means. People die from malaria every year. It kills many more people than you would expect. So what does this mean? Delays in clearing previous donations held up at the Tema port. That was why all of this came to the fore. It's been 11 months, and 11 months for the earliest delivery in terms of this medication. Now, if we go to the next slide, the cost of the delayed donations, $38.87 million. Imagine someone giving you this gratis, right? For free. Use it as part of globally what is done. Global Fund, use it, and we can't even do the right things to give access to people to this medication worth this much. In our next slide, you would find out the breakdown. So bed nets, we're looking at 297 containers, not items, containers full of bed nets. Anti-malarial medicines, 12 containers. Antiretrovirals, that is for HIV and AIDS, 11, and malaria rapid test kits, 10 of them. This is what it means. And that is why some of them have also been saying that without these, trouble is looming large. So to wrap on the Global Fund bit, I just want to say, yes, there have been the interventions from the GRA boss, there have been the other interventions, but how did we even get here? Why should we get to the point? Because for the first time in this Fourth Republic, we've got to the point where vaccines were in short supply for childhood diseases. If we keep up like this, especially when the Global Fund is now telling us, if you don't clear the previous stock, we're not giving you anything new. What exactly are we doing in our health system? I'm throwing the challenge to Dr. Okoboy to look at, re-examine. I know he's inherited a number of things, but we have to re-examine how we go about these issues. But from there, something that looms larger. I'm talking about Dumso, the current power situation. Now, what has the ECG been saying in recent times? It has said that there are no issues with shedding load, that there will not be a timetable, and that we are doing as much as possible to solve the problem at hand. All right. So here's what they have been telling us in respect of this situation. So now moving on to the next slide, and that is the positioning. That has been the positioning of the ECG for a while. But we know that in terms of the outcome of the Mines and Energy Committee's meeting, right? Samuel Atachia has been sharing some thoughts. Gridco has admitted on the back of that meeting that there is an under-generation of power. Under-generation of power. Then that ECG will provide a load shedding timetable, which we are still not seeing, and that the Mines and Energy Committee will continue to monitor the sector players. All this we know, but I guess some entrenched positions have been taken, and in some instances, yes, the ECG will tell you that because of the small window given them by Gridco, it is difficult. But a directive is a directive. The PURC, the Mines and Energy Committee, at what point do we get what we need as a people so that we get power without the running about like headless chickens, right? Next slide. But here's where it gets a bit more interesting. And here's where Kojo Poku will disagree with me, but we stick to our facts, right? 5,626 megawatts installed capacity. Available capacity to you is 3,251. That gives you a shortfall, a deficit, no matter what you want to call it, of 2,375 megawatts. If you look at that report sent to the Energy Commission or by the Energy Commission at a point, you would realize that we knew we would be here. So why did we have to wait to get here and put the ordinary Ghanaian through what we're going through? I mean, my colleague Sweetie Abochi went to Newtown, engaged printers, cold store operators. It is a horror story. But let's go to the next slide. If you look at this, then you would see that normal hours in terms of load shedding, 380 megawatts, peak hours, 505 megawatts. Definitely something would have to come to shove. And when that happens, our power goes off. That is the situation. We have a situation with purchasing fuel, gas. We have a situation with dealing with the IPPs. It's a convoluted situation. We're still not telling the whole truth. And that is the truth of the matter. Next slide. Now, if you look at the trajectory, again, a comparative analysis of the NDC and the MPP in terms of power generation, right? The NDC between 2008 and 2016, what they inherited was 60.5% in terms of our generational capacity, overall capacity. The access after that was 83.24%. So that would suggest an annual increment of 2.84%. Now, if you look at the MPP, they then inherited 83.24%. That is from 2016 to 2022. This is what they inherited at the outset when they took over power. Now they've taken it to 88.75%. If you look at that, it means what has been added on is a mere 0.91%, not even 1%. That is per year, annual increment. But if you look at the percentage point increment, the NDC added to our grid 22.74%. That is a factor of about what? 1 out of 5. Okay? How much has been added since then? 5.51%. So it makes sense. It's not rocket science. We've ended up here because of decisions we've made. Now, let's move on from here and focus on my last issue, the performance tracker, Agenda 111. It makes for some interesting reading because if you look at, and the figures I just gave you from the ECG are also on the performance tracker, right? But when you look at the description of projects on the tracker, 109, but we're talking of Agenda 111, right? So it means those under construction, 88, not under construction, 21, not included, 2. 2 are not in there for some reason. But let's move on to the next slide. Shall we go to the next slide, please? And then when you look at the total project completion rate, we're looking at 36.29%. And this is our own performance tracker and Joy News computation based on the facts and the figures, contrary to what you may see, 36.29%. And when you look at the completion rate of projects under construction, 44.94%. Next slide. And if you look at the regional breakdown, which is where I'm going to end, because some of what is said is not the reality when we do our own breakdown. Western region, 2 projects, completion rate 64.89%. Ashanti 18, 44 plus. Central 7, 55 plus. Eastern 8, 48% plus. Volta 8, 47% plus. Bono, 3 of them 44% plus. Upper East, 8 of them over 44%. And Upper West 5, 43%. We have the last one, which will also include the Greater Accra region. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the OT region has 4 of those projects at about 40% completion. And you can take these as probably the final, because we are in the dying embers of this year and approaching elections. So 40%, Northern 39 plus percent, Western North 38. If you look at the trajectory, in fact, you come down to Greater Accra, 17 of them, 12%. The tail of the tape is clear. We're nowhere near completing these projects. And that also raises the question. That is why I've spoken about lapses, taxes from the global fund issue, and crises. Why try to do so much when you could do a few, make sense of them, maximize Ghanaian taxpayers' taxes, and ensure that communities get full-fledged outfits? The thing is done, not just the structure, because the structure is not a hospital. The equipment and everything is in there. Why? What I'm saying, does it not make sense? Rather than put up a 10-story building that you will not complete, how about put up a 3-story building that will be fully furnished and everything? Does it not make sense? And when you have some more money, you put up another 3-story building till you get what you want? This country sometimes makes me feel like tearing my hair out. But kakra, ebeyeye, we shall get there. But that ebeyeye will not happen overnight. I want to end with this. The new Senegalese president, even before the polls, published his assets. 2 houses, and not any magnificent, 2 houses, 2 cars, is it 4 cars or so, and all of that. He did that. Until we start holding our politicians accountable, down to communicators and everybody. Some of them will come and be doing yappy on air. But because of politics, you find them doing all kinds of things. Until we start holding them accountable, like Vietnam is doing with that lady who has squandered about $44 billion. Until we start doing that, we'll go nowhere. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. As always, I pray that God will bless us all, bless Ghana, and make her great and strong.
The Holy Quran is replete with verses frowning on LGBTQ acts, including same-sex marriages. My faith is, therefore, very strictly against the practice of homosexuality. Allah.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into the big stories now, and Vice President, flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Bawumia, has finally come out delivering a strong position on LGBTQ at the Eid prayers. And he made his point pretty clearly that, and let me quote here, he says, no ifs or buts, no shades of gray. The Holy Quran is against this. But what do you think? We want this to be a proper engagement with you as well. Are you convinced? What do you think? Some say better late than never. Others say he is leading from behind. We'll be introducing our guests to you shortly, but Sweetie Abochi, initial reactions from the Vice President and what he had to say.
Well, I want to say both of these flag bearers have cited religious reasons for which they are declaring their stance against the bill. And I'm wondering...
When you say both, I mean, you're assuming...
I mean, no. Bawumia also said that he's against the bill, and so if he's voted into power, he will assent to the bill and make LGBTQ practices criminal.
Yes, but I was saying that when you say both, so the assumption is that the other one is Mahama? Is that... Okay,
so I mean Mahama and Bawumia.
Right.
I mean, they are the two flag bearers for the two major political parties, and they both citing religious reasons. Mahmoud Bawumia is saying his religion doesn't allow. Mahama is also saying the same thing. And my question is, or what's in my head this morning is, should we use religious reasons or must religious, reasons influence political issues or social issues like LGBT?
So beyond religion.
Beyond religion. Yeah. What's the basis for all these brouhaha, LGBTQ, and why is it taking so long for us to just close this docket and move on with
the chapter already?
It's been an impasse for a while, and I'm wondering at what point do we move forward? And Bawumia is saying that if he's voted into power, what stops him from influencing the president?
No, that's the interesting point, because he literally leads the MPP now, right? If this is your position, but of course he's not the president. He's not the one to whom...
Still drive a state?
If anything were to come, he's not the one who will sign off on it. It must be the president. And at the SONA, Mr. President said that the buck stops with him. But you see the positioning. You remember the Clerk of Parliament wrote back to the presidency that, okay, I've tried 3 times. You've rebuffed me. You say I shouldn't come. So let me know when I can come. It's so... I know what you mean.
On PM Express. Yeah, we'll bring in the guest shortly. On PM Express, saying that the president orchestrated the lawsuit himself. And we know that even before he mentioned the lawsuit, I mean, a day after he mentioned that there was a suit against the bill, it was a day before we actually saw the lawsuit. So, well, let's get into the conversation. We have Professor Kobby Mensah on the phone. He's a political marketer at University of Ghana Business School. Professor Kobby Mensah, thanks for joining the conversation. What are your initial thoughts on, the current status of this anti-LGBTQ plus bill on the back of what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been saying during the Eid prayers in Kumasi?
Thank you very much for having me. Let me say hello to Benjamin.
Hi, Prof.
Hi. I think that, the country or the people actually take clues from leadership, all right? And that's why leadership is crucial. I mean, the word leadership means that all of us, there are some people who actually, leading us or ushering us to places. And so we take the national consciousness especially from what leaders say. And people would ask, why is it necessary for the leaders to actually, state their position? Firstly, the bill had actually, or the issue had been in Parliament, widely debated, and had become one of the key issues that currently we're discussing within the political discourse, all right? And so it is normal for people to expect the views of the leadership. And when I talk about leadership, I mean the political leadership, all right? There are other leaderships. So we expect the views of the leadership, as in opposition and the government or the party in power, or even the party itself. Now, clearly, the opposition had been unequivocal about their stand, i.e., the flag bearer of the NDC had come out to state unequivocally his position and has underpinned it with his faith. Now, the reason why they would actually align to faith is because when it comes to ethics, or when it comes to ethical conduct, when it comes to morality, when it comes to what we call law, for example, and I'm not a lawyer, by the way, quite a number of these things are actually drawn from religious beliefs. And so countries that do not have strong ethical stance on issues, they tend to lean towards their cultural backgrounds, their religious background, to glean their perspectives of what is moral and what is ethical, etc., from their backgrounds of culture and then, of course, of religion. So the opposition side, you can say that the case is closed, all right? Now, I think that the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, has two challenges. One, when the issue was raging and when everybody else was talking about it and were expecting leadership to actually voice their position, he never did. Now, the expectation of the people was that definitely Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is a Muslim, and everybody knows the stance of Muslim on this particular issue, which himself, cited that the Quran definitely abhors it. And that's the position of the people. People knew, beforehand that certainly this is not something that, Dr. Bawumia would support LGBTQ. And so he would firmly support the bill. And that was expectation. But expectation itself would not take the issue away. They would want an explicit, proclamation from the vice president. But he lost the opportunity. Time is currency. And in communication, once the moment is right, that is when you have to make the statement. He lost that position. He made people create a lot of assumptions. And he complicated his issue by the president coming out to say that I would not actually assent to this particular bill. Then he was in a bad state because voicing it out would become contradictory to his government position, because the president embodies the government position. The president, to a very large extent, embodies the party's position. Now your president comes and says, I would not assent to this. He hasn't said that he supports LGBTQ. He hasn't said that, he actually wants LGBTQ. And of course, by extension, you can say that once the vice president, who is a Muslim, is likely to abhor it, is likely to not to support the LGBT. Christians also don't support LGBTQ. But the president, having said that he will not assent to it, somehow put it in the position that perhaps he supports it. And that makes Dr. Bawumia's position much more difficult, because if he comes out, he contradicts his government position, he contradicts the party position. If he doesn't, now the confusion is that does he or does he not? Because even the president, who is a Christian, and by extension Christians do not support LGBT, saying that I would not assent the bill. You see? So it now becomes very difficult. He now goes to give a speech and says that even from my religious background, it all shows that I would not support LGBT.
But Prof, just briefly, the president premised his decision, the president premised his decision on the Supreme Court case, stating that there were two cases there. And so for that reason, he would want to wait on the back of hindsight, what we saw in the e-levy. I'm sure he's saying, I've learned my lessons this time. I don't want to go down that route. What is your take on that? And secondly, quick point. You say he spoke too late. That is the vice president. When do you feel, as a political marketer, would have been the ideal time for him to have come out on this?
When everybody's mind was on this. Currently, it's buried. His position has been buried in the festivities, has been buried in the notion that, of course, he hadn't actually spoken. The issue is no longer, at the front burner of the conversation. People have moved on. Currently, we are discussing even the performance tracker. So his position now has been buried. Most people had gone with the idea that he hadn't spoken about it. I wonder how many people would really, get to know that Bawumia has spoken about this issue because it was buried in the festivities. It had been buried in the performance track. So many issues had come up, at the front burner that we are discussing. So that is a problem for him. And I'm sure that if he was to actually, sort of be on top of the issues in terms of his position, he's lost that position. All right. Now, if you take the president, of course, he actually premised his not signing based on a legal, perspective or based on a legal position. That is clear. But of course, we all knew that, because of a certain pronouncement from foreign powers, from so-called, development partners, etc., hinging it on a certain expectation, IMF, money coming in. That's why the president is actually saying he's not signing. So we don't see the legal perspective as the reasons why, but we see other forces as the reasons why he's not signing. So although he has expressly said it, I don't think that people are actually buying it. People are actually hinging it on the earlier conversations, which is IMF says don't sign it. Some big wigs, big business people, Richard Branson has said that don't sign it, etc. And I think that is the narrative, or that is the discourse that people are actually taking away, not the legal one.
Right. There's something you said that I just want to react to quickly. You said Christians don't support, but there's been a number of discourse that suggests that the Pope is blessing same-sex marriage. So not all Christians are against the bill. But let me bring in Dennis Miracles Abuaje, who is Communications Director for Dr. DrBawumia's campaign team.
Maybe before we bring in Miracles Abuaje, I think it must be made clear the Pope hasn't said
you're Catholic.
That. No, it's not about being Catholic. I think we have to get that point correctly. The Pope has not said that he's going to bless same-sex marriages. He has said that in the context of going to church and, bless me. That is simply it. It doesn't have anything to relate to approving same-sex marriages, which is why you can't go anywhere and have a same-sex marriage as a Catholic. Let's make that clear before we move on.
And Ben, largely, if you look at the Christian faith, there's a certain liberal stance, within the Christian faith than the Muslim faith. It's something that is clear, all right? Quite a lot of, within the Christian fraternity, if you look at the Orthodox and if you look at the Charismatic and the Pentecostals, the continuum is a little bit stretched than within the Muslim faith. So I don't think that it is wrong to say that some Christians have some kind of soft leaning towards that than the Muslim faith. So clearly, people gave the vice president benefits of that from the beginning. I think what was left was for him to stand on that particular benefit of the doubt, to have an express position on that. And he failed to do that within the moment that he could have actually garnered the currency that I'm talking about.
Okay. Dennis Miracle Abuaje is joining us on phone. And my first question to you would be, how is Dr. DrBawumia's campaign team perceiving this ongoing LGBTQ, the lawsuits and the bill itself? How does Bawumia, the team, perceive this ongoing lawsuit and the bill?
Party, not just Dr. Bawumia. He belongs to a group beyond his own personal principles, which is against the LGBTQI. The group that he belongs to, which is a New Patriotic Party, has been quite clear and emphatic. We are a conservative party and we frown on LGBTQI. There is no doubt about that. It is not about anybody's pain or anybody's propaganda that will change it. We are a conservative party. LGBTQI is not one of the things that we share from it, and that is okay. Our members of parliament don't promote the prime bill in parliament. And again, that's the things why our members of parliament supported the party of the bill on the House. And so that must be established. Every other thing is just the usual political agenda and the usual political propaganda things where others always want to take advantage of some of these things.
Dennis, can you hear me? Can you hear me,
yeah, sure.
Miracles? Yeah. I would suggest that maybe we don't label everything that differs from the opinion propaganda, but it's up to you to decide. But I'm just curious though. You say this is the party's overarching position and all of that, then my question is, why now? The VP waited all this while. This conversation, like Professor Mensah is saying, has gone on for so long. He's never spoken. Why now then?
Who's taken? Who gave the timeline? Who's taken? Who gave the timeline? Who set the timeline? If we had a timeline set from the beginning, then we can have that conversation. I mean, Professor Mensah, anybody listening knows it's not coming from an objective perspective. But who gave the timeline? Between the time...
Who is not coming from an objective perspective?
Professor Mensah.
Why?
There's no doubt about that.
Why?
Let's not go into that, but there's no doubt about that. But
I have to be fair to him.
No, I'm telling you.
He's on the other end. I can't just let you say that and move. Why do you say that?
No, his position, especially when it comes to issues of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the MPP, it's there, public, it's there. Go to his tweet, it's public. There's no doubt about that. He himself is not denying that. So, I mean, that's a fact that it's not coming from an objective perspective when there are issues that have to do with the MPP and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. There's no doubt about that.
I see. I could go way back in time and also fish out stuff where he's been very supportive of the MPP and even of the vice president, if you look at before the 2016 elections. But I'll leave him to defend himself. Just a quick follow-up, though. Pardon me.
He even spoke about both Mahama and Bawumia, so it was not like just fixed on,
Okay, Dennis?
Go on.
Dennis, go on. You wanted to say something.
So nobody gave the timeline. Nobody said for us to say that it's time and so the bell is ringing. The fact of the matter is that the discussion on LGBTQI has not even ended, even beyond Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's statement. It hasn't ended. It's still a raging conversation. Let me also quickly correct a falsehood that was put out by Professor Mensah. The president has not said anywhere that he will not assent to the bill. He hasn't said it anywhere. There is no such record of the president saying he's not going to assent to any bill. He hasn't said it anywhere. And you should have actually pointed that to him as well.
I think the point he was making, Dennis, let's not do this. The point he was making was that when the president, met with the foreign missions and all of that, he said that on the back of what had come before the Supreme Court, though it would be a day after, he was going to wait for that. I think it's pretty clear that was what he was referring to, not to say that the president has said he would never or he would not assent to the bill. Or did you understand it differently?
It doesn't matter to me understand. That's what we said. What Professor Mensah said was that the president has said he will not assent to the bill. And that compromises Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's position. I'm saying that the president hasn't said that.
Okay, all right.
What the president has, the bill itself hasn't even come to him. And as it stands now, there's a court case at the Supreme Court, for which reason we need to wait for the judiciary to clear that before we even have that conversation.
Okay, so I'll also take you on. I'll also take you on the wording. You say the bill hasn't come to him, but 3 times the Clerk of Parliament has tried to transmit that bill. And now he's even been forced to write to the presidency saying that as and when you're ready, let me know, and then I'll transmit the bill to you. But just 2 quick points, and then we'll continue with the conversation from the other side. You made mention...
Don't move on from there. That supports the fact that the bill hasn't gotten to the president yet. It supports it. So indeed, the bill hasn't reached the president.
How does something get to you when you reject it?
So it hasn't gotten to you. He hasn't gotten to him. That is the point. That.
But his office wrote to the parliament's, parliament's clerk saying not to transmit.
Has the bill reached the president?
These are technicalities. I mean, I don't see why we are even splitting hairs over this.
He hasn't received the bill.
Okay.
He hasn't received the bill.
All right. I'll come back to you, Dennis Miracles Abwaje. Let's also bring into the conversation Most Reverend Dr. Paul K. Boafo, Presiding Bishop, Methodist Church of Ghana. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining the conversation. Your initial thoughts. I mean, I've heard you speak on LGBTQ in the past. Where do you feel we are now? How do you feel about this continuous tussle between the executive and the legislature vis-a-vis what Dr. Bawumia has now said?
Right. Thank you very much. And let me say a very good morning to the panelists there and your cherished listeners. This morning, when we look at what is happening now, we can look at it from where we all started with this debate, and thank God coming this far from Parliament, Parliament speaking the voice of Ghanaians, and then where we are, we think that as Christians, that is the voice of the people. And Parliament representing all of us has spoken the voice of the people. Now, when it comes to the assent from the President, we know that at the point, but the last time I checked, the bill has not been sent. And then we got the information that the letter that was sent to Parliament, that the bill should not be sent because there was something at the Supreme Court. So as at now, I cannot tell whether it has been sent or not. But whatever...
There was an attempt on 3 occasions to transmit the bill to the President for his assent. It was rebuffed. The secretary to the President, Nana Asante-Bediatu, wrote to that effect, directing, and some felt that was disrespectful, directing the Clerk of Parliament not to attempt to doing that.
For me, I would say that, fine, there is something with the court. The President is right when something is before the Supreme Court. We have to listen to the Supreme Court. But the bottom line is that Parliament representing Ghanaians, that is the point. Parliament representing Ghanaians, because we all sent our views, our proposals, we spoke to the parliamentary proceedings, we were called, we gave our opinions and all that. And those people we have put in place to bring our law into line, they have spoken. So for that one, I am very, very sure that the bill, when it is sent to the President, he will assent to it. That is the point I am so holding on to. And Christians, Muslims, traditional rulers, we are all on one line saying that this is the point and this is the way we want to go.
Reverend, let me continue in that trail of thought. Do you believe that religion should influence... Ghana is a cosmopolitan country. There are diverse people living in this country. Do you believe that religious beliefs should influence a political decision like LGBTQ+?
Oh, sorry, I have been a very nice place. Can you come again?
Right. I was asking that you're saying that Christians, Muslims, traditionalists are all aligned against this practice of LGBTQ. Now, I'm saying that Ghana is a cosmopolitan country. There are diverse people from various religious backgrounds and traditional backgrounds in this country. Do you believe that religious beliefs should influence a political decision like this anti-LGBTQ+ bill?
No, but you see, we are talking about our identity. We are talking about who we are as Ghanaians. Barring all that you talk about relating, our values from the very beginning, from our fathers and mothers, indicate that we are not in for such acts. You see, we are not in for such acts because it is hitting at the root of the very society we want to protect. It is hitting, it is like an act at the root of the tree. And Ghana as a nation, Ghana or Ghanaians as unique people, we are saying that these are our values. This is what identifies us. So even if we take away the religious aspect, this is the mindset of Ghanaians. Yes, we can have people with different opinions. They are accepted. Let me make this point very clear, that Christians, as we are supporting this bill, we are saying we are not against the people who are into it, but we are against the act. We are against the act. God loves these people, and that is why we are saying that, look, let us not promote this, but the people, as they get themselves involved in it, we will show them our love, we would guide and protect them, we will bring them to know what identifies us, what makes us who we are as Ghanaians.
Doc, I have a quick follow-up. You see, you make it very clear that if the parliamentarians represent us, then it is clear that they're posturing, though I feel, personally, that some of them may have gone down that road. You remember when the Speaker of Parliament said, if you're against it or anything, stand up. No one dared because of the political consequences, I feel, they could have suffered. But let's move away from that. If it were that clear-cut, don't you think the president would have assented to the bill now? In the case of the e-levy, there were 2 cases in court, I think by Oliver Barker Vomawo and the minority side. The president went ahead and signed the bill. Why is this different? Why?
Well, I think we take every case on its own merit and we determine on its own merit. You know, yes, we had a long debate on the e-levy. At the end of the day, this was a government policy. The e-levy was a government policy. And so if the parliament had passed it, then the government or whoever was in charge had the upper hand to say that, look, parliament has decided. But this one is on a different note. We should understand that it's not something that is coming from government per se. It is coming from some individual, but it has gained the support of parliament, gained the support of Ghanaians, gained the support of the religious bodies, gained the support of the nook and cranny of the people of the state.
Right.
And so, if there is a counter, then I think yes, it is right for the government to say yes, this is something in court, and the courts are here with us. They are going to give us the interpretation, and they are going to tell us what they also say. And I believe that they are all Ghanaians. They are all Ghanaians. We don't want to tread into that legal aspect because we don't want to be charged for contempt and all that.
Right.
But we are saying that Ghanaians have spoken. Parliament speaking on behalf of Ghanaians and legislators, they are our legislators. And they are saying that this is the law. They have looked at it thoroughly. And that is why for the church and other faith-based organizations, we say that this is the way we have to go.
All right. Reverend, please hold for me. Let me come back to Professor Kobby Mensah. Professor Kobby, it's an election year, so I like to draw some connection between this stance by Dr. Bawumia and, December polls. Do you think that his declaration or his stance is likely to attract or alienate certain voter demographics?
All right. Thank you very much. But before that, let me try to respond to Dennis on an issue that he said, because obviously he's in the business of political communication, and so I need to actually clarify some point. Sometimes I feel like my students are listening, so I have to be very clear so that they know. He was asking what was the deadline, who set the deadline. Dennis, in political communication, when we talk about public discourse, the deadline is the period of intensity. When we're having a conversation, there are issues that actually come up. They are revolving, they're dynamic. So when the period of intensity actually doused, that's when we say that there's a deadline. Remember, there's a public opinion and there's a private opinion. You may have a private opinion. That cannot be promoted as public opinion. The public decides what they are interested in discussing, promoted by the media, promoted by so many other interests, including your own political party. But of course, people have moved on from that conversation. As I told you, we are now discussing performance tracker. So certainly he's late by what we know as public, opinion. Secondly, he talked about his party's position. Clearly, everybody knows that NPP is a conservative party. But of course, party values and party positions are not static. They are not dynamic, especially when it's in government. When a party is in government, they get conflicted by the pragmatic policy positions as a result of public forces. And so, yes, you may have a political value that actually do not promote LGBTQ. When you're in government, you face certain pressures that would actually make you, conflict your own values and be in a dilemma. So certainly it is not surprising that NPP is in dilemma because obviously there is a certain, foreign pressures on you, and I can understand that. When you're in a position, it's easier for you to state your position, for you to state your values. But when you're in government, it's different. Now, let me come to the issue of, the campaign on the elections. I'm not sure that, the LGBTQ will be dominant in the campaign conversations. Why? Because the economy is in a very sad state and people are preoccupied with their daily lives. And so it becomes difficult for issues like this to be at the front burner of the political conversation during the election period. Unless, of course, there are issues that will actually promote them. For example, if the president is saying he's not assenting, for example, because of a legal case, and that issue is actually mined by the media, by other stakeholders. And then, of course, there's a certain angle of IMF money, whether it's coming in or not, and it ties in with the economic issue. Then, of course, the LGBTQI may become part of the key conversations in the campaign and might actually influence people's opinions or people's voter choices. But I don't really foresee it becoming a central point because of the number one issue, which is the economy.
You've made a point, though, that the vice president is late. You've spoken about that point of crucial reaction. Do you feel, since he is, if you look at it, because even the president, when he was communicating to the Anglican Church some time back, made a certain position known. The last person, most relevant person down the line is the vice president, who is now speaking. Do you feel there could be consequences for that? Though you feel it's not a major issue, politically, voting-wise, do you feel there could be consequences?
It could be if the position can mine it. One, he did this, all right, and that actually speaks to his judgment. I mean, I have made a point that in the geopolitical system, you have very heavy weight. You have Vladimir Putin. On the other side, you have the American president on the other side. There are top issues that have to be discussed, that have to be talked about. We have Israel-Gaza region, and you have a vice president who is attempting to become president. That did this on the key issues. In the key moment, he's not able to actually make judgment. I remember very well in 2008 when Obama and Hillary were actually contested. Hillary did an ad and said, at 2 a.m. when your generals are not around you and you're called that Mr. President, America is on fire, what will be your response? And that exactly is the moment Bawumia failed to capitalize on. In the heat of the moment, when the issues are hot burning and we're actually talking about it, can he stand the pressures of Vladimir Putin? Can he stand the pressures of, for example, the American president, whoever is there? Can he stand the egos of Israel, etc.? You do not have the character to do that. And he says that I am against the vice president. I'm not against the vice president. In fact, I wrote about the vice president emergence when he was in court, and I was absolutely in awe of him. But I've been so disappointed that when it comes to key issues that demand national character, national action, that demand political leadership, he shied away from that. And that's what I criticize. I'm not against it.
Key issues apart from LGBTQ, which other key issue would you make mention of that he shied away from?
Run away from the economics. I mean, he doesn't talk about economic issues anymore. Doomsday, have you heard the vice president talk about Doomsday?
He says the economy is also hinged on digitization and digitalization. Have you heard him speak about that?
Benjamin, digitization is operational level. It's not strategic. I'm telling you. I can even do that because the frameworks are there. If you go to Silicon Valley, you have templates for digitalization. You can leave it to whoever sector minister is to actually implement that. The key issues are what we are talking about. Geopolitical issues and economic issues. He shied away from them because there are powerful people in the LGBTQ that perhaps he's not able to confront. And that's why he shied away from it. So at the moment when we need judgment, when we need character, when we need leadership, he's failed.
All right, Prof, let me quickly bring in Miracles, and Sweetie will also bring in Doc as well. So on the back of what Professor Mensah has said, right, I have a bit of a struggle. You made mention of the fact that yours is a conservative party. Across the world, whether it's the UK, the US, conservatives act in a certain way, even the Republicans to a certain extent. But I'm trying to look at actions speaking louder than words. I have listened over time to the Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, and some of his proposals and even advice on how to deal with this LGBTQ thing. The Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, then the president, and then the reaction to the bill. I'm trying to put that side by side with what the VP is now saying, and I have a bit of a struggle. How do you connect the dots, Dennis?
So I still feel that the professor's theories are completely moot. And again, they are not...
Dennis, I'm sorry. Your connection is a little, so just speak up a little for us. So
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
I'm saying that I still feel that the professor's theories are completely moot, and it's simply because you're not coming from objective perspective. So the bill was presented in Parliament somewhere in 2021. Now the president spoke on his position on LGBTQI in 2021. 3 years down the line, when the conversation around this bill and LGBTQI has gone on, you have his friend, so Mahama, his candidate, speaking on it in January 2024. And he thinks that all of a sudden, because Mahama speaks about it 3 years later in January 2024, once Mahama speaks, the deadline is up, and that Dr.Bawumia speaks in April. And because Mahama spoke in January, 3 years after the introduction of the bill, and 3 years after Nana Akufo-Addo spoke, the deadline has come. It wasn't deadline after Nana spoke, but it became deadline 3 years later after John Mahama spoke.
I'm just curious. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just curious. What exactly did President Akufo-Addo say in 2021? Just remind us.
President Akufo-Addo was emphatic. He said that there is no way he is going to have same-sex marriage and LGBTQI issues promoted under his government. That's exactly what he said. And he said it in 2021.
I see.
That was the time when the bill had also been introduced in Parliament. 3 years after, you have his friend John Mahama speaking in January 2024. After the issues have been raging on, then his candidate speaks. Immediately his friend speaks. Then there is deadline. That's laughable. I keep telling you that's laughable. Listen, I'm a marketer too. I'm a chartered marketer. I understand communication. There is no lateness in bringing up an issue. This morning, are we not discussing LGBT across the country? Check all the front pages. Check all the morning shows. Check all the news portals. Since yesterday, LGBTQI is being discussed. Which professor says that it is late? Which professor says that the issue is buried? Which professor says that that issue is gone? Which level 100 students will even believe in this theory? So it's completely moot, and I understand. It is being said that way by the professor because he can never be objective when it comes to Dr. Mahmoud. And clearly that's affecting his own proper way of...
Is it possible for you to attack the ideas without attacking the person?
But he's attacking the vice president. If you say, that is his position. What idea has he espoused? Every single thing he said is about the vice president being late, the vice president not having principles. How is that an idea? So how are you saying I'm attacking him? I'm attacking his principles. The same way he thinks is attacking the vice president. Why didn't you question him on that? The vice president is saying that he, as a vice president, because of his beliefs in the social values and cultural values of this country, because of his beliefs in his religion, because of his knowledge that majority of Ghanaians, social values, cultural values, religious principles do not support LGBTQI, his position is that it is a no for him as a person, as a vice president, and as a president come 2025. And then the professor says that that position is late. How is that late?
Okay, so to conclude my thoughts with you on this matter, I do also remember, since you referenced the president, when he had that interview and also made mention of the fact that, on these issues, eventually the people will have to decide and that it is bound to happen. You remember that as well. So maybe some people will say that it wasn't so clear what the positioning of the president was, especially putting that side by side with, the late President Mills, for example. But I'd just like to find out as we move on.
Do you remember John Mahama's position on an interview outside Ghana when he also said that he believes that gay sex rights must be protected and that because some of these people are attacked, they keep hiding and doing these things in secrecy and that their rights also need to be protected. How do you put that side by side what he said in January 2024? You remember that one too?
Anyway, let's move the conversation forward. I'd just like to find out from you, Dr. Boafo believes, and I'm moving forward from that question, not because I did hear something about human rights. I don't know whether the wording is exactly what you say, which is why I'm avoiding it. But Dr. Boafo believes that the president will, I like his conviction, will sign the bill. You've spoken about the NPP being a conservative party. Is that your understanding as well, that the president will sign the bill? Because that's the conviction of Dr. Boafo.
The president has never said anywhere that he will not sign the bill. He hasn't received the bill. And so at this point, it is when the president receives the bill and then...
Okay, so let me clarify. Dr. Boafo says when it gets to him, he will sign it. Is that...
I believe so too.
Okay, all right.
I believe so too.
Right.
But he hasn't received the bill.
But let me go to Reverend now, before I even take your final thoughts on this matter. Do you believe that... do you agree with the assertions of Professor Kobby Mensah that this LGBTQ might not be pivotal in the electioneering activities or campaign activities leading to the presidential elections? Do you believe that if it's still an impasse come December 2024, Christians, I'm also saying this because some political parties like Alan Chomanteng and the rest are saying that Christians should vote for Christian leaders. So we know that religion does play a role in our political affairs. Do you think that come December 2024, if this bill is still not signed into law, it would affect the campaigns of all these political parties, especially the NPP?
The issue is about the law. Ghanaians' concern is about LGBTQI. People have raised concerns with the law. The fact that the bill has been passed doesn't mean that the bill can be assented in its whole sense as it is. If people have concerns about aspects of the law...
No, my question was actually to the Reverend, but you finish and then I can go back to Reverend.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I'm sorry.
No, but finish your trail of thoughts.
I don't think anybody has an issue with a law that is controlling LGBTQI practices. What I have heard, a lot of people see as certain aspects of the law. And I have always held the view that people should also be allowed to raise concerns about certain aspects of the law, so that by the time the law comes out, it is one that is strong and solid enough to be able to guide us as a country. And I think nobody should be guided in that space. Again, I am of the view that people have various reasons why they vote. And so it would be completely erroneous for anybody to think that LGBTQI would not also play a part in some people's decision as to who they vote for come 2024. That should also be established. And it's not, LGBTQI is only about religion. It's only about Christianity, Islam, and all of that. There are people who are atheists that are opposed to LGBTQI. There are Christians who support LGBTQI. There are Muslims who support LGBTQI. And so it's not just about religion. It is about people's opposition to a practice. And I'm of the view that there may be some people who would use LGBTQI as a basis to cast their vote. And their decision is based on which leader they trust, believe, is consistent, and hasn't contradicted himself when it comes to his position on the LGBTQI. It's not about who spoke first. It's about what you said previously and what you are saying now, and how it contradicts your position when it comes to LGBTQI. Between Dr. Bawumia and John Mahama has contradicted himself before on the LGBTQI matter. Dr. Bawumia hasn't. He's been emphatic, he's been decisive, and he's been precise. He's against LGBTQI without any shade of grey, no ifs, no buts.
Did you follow Asiedu Nketiah's assertions that the president orchestrated the lawsuit himself to prevent him from assenting to the bill? How do you react to that? About controversy and who is trustworthy?
There's nothing to react to.
Right. Thank you, Miracles Awaje. But, Reverend, I was asking you if you think that this bill will play any pivotal role in election 2024 on deciding who to vote for. Reverend Paul Boafo, are you still with us? Okay.
Yes, I am on.
So, Prof. Kobby Mensah was saying that he doesn't think that it would actually play a pivotal role because people are more focused on the economy and other issues. But I'm asking if, from where you sit as a Christian leader, do you think that this bill, if it's still an impasse, would affect how people vote come election 2024?
Sure. It will play a role. It will play a role, but it is not the only factor that will guide people in voting. Because as we speak now, parties are putting together their manifestos and they are coming out gradually spelling out the details of what they intend for Ghanaians. Now, after all these years of democratic dispensation, Ghanaians are now aware of what is good for us. And so, if we are talking about the values and what identifies us and what makes us unique as a people, and you want to destroy it, Ghanaians will not be happy with it. Especially Christians, we will not be happy with it because the sanctity of family is at stake, and we need to guard it. There are other factors that will also come into play: the economy, our finances, our social and all, employment, youth, education, health, and all that. We are not saying that it is just LGBTQ that is going to stand. There are other factors, but LGBTQ and how the party comes out very clear on it will also guide in people making their choice.
Okay. So, Dennis, this one is for you. I just
please. I have to leave now.
Yes.
Because I'm in a service.
Right, Rev.
Yes.
We're grateful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rev.
And I wish you well.
We wish you well too, and all the best with the service. And that is Most Reverend Dr. Paul K. Boafo, Presiding Bishop, Methodist Church of Ghana. Dennis, I just wanted to, because you see, sometimes we're very careful as media people when we're quoting. I heard you say some things, I wasn't too sure. That's why I didn't go according to it. But there's a My Joy Online story I want to refer you to from February 1st, 2013. When the former president was power, President Mahama declared stance homosexuality is criminal. I'd like you to read that story. And in fact, on the back of that, okay, in 2016, 17th March 2016, you said the former president hadn't been clear. There's a Guardian story there. Ghanaian president's visit to Scotland draws LGBT rights criticism. And per the story, an invitation to the president of Ghana to address MSPs undermine the safety of the Scottish Parliament for members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, according to opposition, because of his statements on LGBTQ. So if in 2013, that is what, 11 years ago, and these were some consequences for him in 2016, I don't know, but I just wanted to draw your attention to that as well. What are your final thoughts, Dennis? Do we have Dennis Miracles Abuaji on the line?
I think he left.
I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm here.
I can hear you now. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard you. And I'm saying that I think you should use the same effort moving forward to go and dig up similar stories on Dr. Bawumia when Professor Kobby Mensah makes it falsehoods about him. And I like it that way. The point is, when Mahama spoke in 2013, was there a deadline? Did they end the conversation on LGBTQI? Did they end it there? Or it came back in 2021, and MPs went back to it. And then it came back again in 2024, and Mahama spoke on it again. What we have done has clearly gone back to wipe out that false theories that the professor was putting out, that the LGBTQI issue is buried, because Mahama has spoken on it in 2024. When he spoke on it in 2013, did they get buried? When he came back in 2014 to come and speak on it and speak about giving them their gay rights, they protected their rights, did they get buried? So I think that use the same effort next time, like you said, as journalists, to make sure that you dig down some of these falsehoods. When you said that the president said he will not assent to the bill, you should have used the same energy to dig down and let him know that the president hasn't said anywhere that he will not assent to the bill. So thank you for bringing this up. And this goes to buttress the point that there is no deadline to an issue. because this is an issue that was discussed in 2013. Remember the Solomon, the Andrew Solomon saga, where the former president was found lying in bed. You know,
in fact, the My Joy Online story addresses exactly that. Mahama Yariga spoke to specifically that. That's why I'm referencing you to that story, if you take time to read it.
It wasn't a deadline then. So the professor's theory is completely flawed. There is no deadline to an issue. So he cannot wake up in April 2024 and impose a deadline on Ghanaians. The same way it didn't go dead in 2013, and the former president has to come back in 2024 to speak about it. Dr. Bawumia has spoken about it. If he comes back in 2028, during the election period for his second term, he will speak about it again. That theory is moot, it's flawed, it's false. It was a deliberate attempt by the professor to mislead the public, and I thank you for bringing this up to court.
Just before you go, I just wanted to find out, since you have the historical antecedents, had the vice president, just to clarify from you, had the vice president before this ever been this categorical, vehement on this matter? You may know better than I do, so I just want some clarity on that. Had he before this ever said anything?
Maybe when you finish, you should use the same energy. So maybe you should, the way you did for Mahama, do it for Bawumia.
No, I'm asking you. Maybe you are privy to information I don't have. I'm honestly trying to find out.
You did it for Bawumia, Mahama, do it for Bawumia too.
Okay, so I take it that since you don't have a response, then I take it that there was none.
Why are you not doing it for Bawumia? You just did it for Mahama. Why are you not doing it for Bawumia?
Thank you very much, Dennis Miracles Abuaje.
Bawumia has said this severally before now. Why didn't you do it for him?
All right. All right. Thank you, Dennis Miracles Abuaje, for having joined the conversation. Interesting one. Huh?
Yeah, we have to take final thoughts from Professor Kobby Mensah. Is he still with us? Professor Kobby Mensah?
Yeah.
Yes, your final words before we go.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, obviously, Dennis's work, part of it is spin doctrine, and so I'm not surprised by that. I think that if he wants to be in a very insightful and authentic to the Ghanaian people and very much respectful to the Ghanaian people, he needs to introduce ethics in his communication because obviously we spend time, our value to listen to you as a political communicator, speaking on behalf of a campaign. And so your values actually endorses your campaigns, if you actually demonstrate that. And so I have no qualms at all that he would actually do that because part of it is spin doctrine. But it has to be said that, the political leaders must really be on time on conversations. When the public is engaged in a particular conversation, we want to hear your voice. Of course, it's strategic and tactical, for you to data because obviously he wants to look at positions of his boss. Whether he could persuade him or not, I don't know. Whether he's tried to do that, I'm not sure. But when the public expects you to take a position, we want you to speak to them because we have to see our leaders being able to match up to the geopolitical leaders. And as I said, there are top, world issues. There are top geopolitical issues that demands that our leaders are ready to speak to those issues. And currently, the kind of characteristics or the kind of images that we are seeing from our government or the current administration doesn't give us that particular confidence. And I think that's the submission I would give to this.
Right. Thank you so much, Professor Kobby Mensah, who is the political marketer. We also spoke to Dennis Miracles Abuaje, who is the communications director for Dr. Bawumia's campaign team, and then Reverend Dr. Boafo, presiding leader for the Methodist Church of Ghana. But did he say we should use the same energy to do it?
Well,
if he cannot speak to us from Dr. Bawumia's campaign team and tell us how vocal he has been.
So I just took the time because I knew. You see, his wording of what the former president had said. I remember human rights, but he made mention of gay sex. So I had to be careful. So I went back to dig. And even as far back as 2013, and I'm sure there were others before, because the former president, I'm talking of Atta Mills's stance, was pretty clear. And following that, I knew former President Mahama had also spoken. So I just had to check, and I found 2013, okay, on the back of which, interestingly, even in 2016, he was being hounded when he went to the Scottish Parliament. I remember that issue, that his utterances on LGBTQ were X, Y, Z.
It was all over the place.
So for Dennis to say that he was speaking about it in 2023 was interesting for me, but it's okay if it's politics. But then I wanted to find out from him, because he suggests that the vice president has spoken about LGBTQ. I don't recall, so I had to check, and I don't find anything. So I asked him whether he could tell us, but he was telling me to go and check on that as well. So I guess we can form our own opinions, draw the lines where we'll draw them.
But it's been an interesting conversation. Benjamin.
Anyway, so there's still a lot more to come. We're going to be talking about transport fares, among other matters. That issue is becoming.
This is the third time this
problematic.
That there's been a threat resolved, and now the drivers are completely ignoring both GPRTU and the government. They're just increasing the prices, and they're doing what works best for them. But that's coming up next on our conversations here on the AM show. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're back to get another set of the conversations going. Now we're talking about transportation and inflation. You know, there have been talks between the transport unions and government over a possible increase in transport fares. They're citing increase in petroleum prices, petroleum products, and some other things as a reason for this. But GPRTU is saying that they should hold on. Commuters should disregard this purported increase in fuel prices and transport fares. We are going to have a conversation with some guests. I will introduce them shortly before we get into it. But Benjamin, we were just talking about this before we went on, that it's been this is the third time that drivers are threatening to increase transport fares. They're citing fuel prices, cost of repairs, lubricants and spare parts, so many other things. Cost of fuel. And the fuel we know because inflation and all these, issues going on when it comes to this economy. Let me now bring in Duncan Amoah, who is Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Commerce, Consumers, to join the conversation. Mr. Duncan Amoah, thank you for joining us. If you can... Okay, so Samuel Amoah, is on. Samuel Amoah, who is the Deputy PRO of GPRTU. Samuel Amoah, how does the situation stand currently as we speak? Is there an increase in transport fares?
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to your viewers and listeners. Yeah, what is happening is currently, as I'm speaking, officially there has not been transport increment, but negotiation is ongoing. If you recall, last January, we came out with 20% increment, and then the Transport Ministry also came out that we didn't use the normal procedure that we used before we come up with an increment. So they called us for a meeting. Then there was an agreement that we should put our proposals on a paper and present it, of which we did say. And then that proposal was that we had wanted to increase it by 20%. The reason why we were increasing it was the cost of spare parts, the cost of lubricants, and taxes. That is VDLA and insurance taxes that has gone up. But then the fuel price wasn't that much. It has not gotten to where it is now. This proposal has been on their table since January. It was, we tried approaching them or reaching out to them that things are still going high. And so last week we find out that the fuel price is also going high again. So we called on the ministry and we had a meeting last Wednesday. Actually, we didn't come to a conclusion and the meeting was adjourned to come in Wednesday again before a decision will be taken about this, our fare increment. So as I'm speaking now, officially, there has not been any fare increment. Negotiation is still ongoing. Hopefully by coming Wednesday, the Transport Ministry together with the leadership of GPRTU will meet again before a decision will be taken.
Very, very quickly on that, in the Western region, some members of your outfit, executives, who had gone on to make some proclamation of about 30% were sanctioned. What's the status of that?
Oh, yes, we heard of that. We had that information. And when we had that information, actually, let me say that we are not blaming the drivers too much because we know this is an individual business. They are private operators. No government has, buy a vehicle for them to run. They use their own money, use their own resources to run. This is the same business they do to take care of their home. And because of the normal procedure that we use, because of laws and regulations that we use, that is why we are asking them to exercise patience. So we all into agreement. So what that information? Just click on them. And we asked them to hold, so they went, then they walked back.
We've had reports of some drivers who are refusing to wait on this meeting you say will happen between the GPRTU and government, and they've gone ahead to increase transport fares, which is causing some sort of ruckus in the trotros. How do you respond to that? Do you have a grip on the situation? I mean, the Ghana GPRTU.
Yes,
how do you call such drivers to order?
Yes, let me explain. You see, it's not all the vehicles that belongs to GPRTU. We have other unions, and at the same time, we also have some vehicles that don't belong to any of the unions that we call them the floating drivers. When it happens like that, sometimes we find it a bit difficult to handle the situation, but yet we do call them and talk to them using your media outfit and be talking to them. As I'm speaking now, GPRT has come out with a communique that the drivers should hold on till Wednesday meeting, then the outcome, we'll let them know before we all use that percentage, whatever percentage that we agree to use, then we come out with. So currently, we know the situation at hand now. Some of the drivers have now increased it and all that. We've heard all those information, but we are still talking to them, trying to calm the situation down so that we all agree on one thing, then by Wednesday we proceed.
So these floating drivers, is there no way to ask them to hold on till this meeting happens on Wednesday? Are you saying that there's no way you can call them to order, until the meeting so that commuters can have a break from the fights going on between mates and commuters because they think they have to increase the fares, and commuters are saying that GPRTU says you should hold on and all that?
Yes, because they don't belong to our home, they don't belong to the family, sometimes we find it a bit difficult to control them. That is why most of the time we do refer to our road traffic regulation, the Act 2012. There is a portion that states clearly that before one can be allowed to operate as a commercial operator, such driver or such vehicle must belong to an existing transport union. It is in the law. And the law also says that failure to do that, the person has to be charged with court, and there is a fine or a penalty for that. And that thing is not working. By supposing all these things are being implemented, the enforcement are working, like you see all the drivers who belong to unions, and to control them will not be difficult as we are seeing now. But still, because they are also there, we still use your media outfits and any platform that we get, we use that to address them, for them to calm down, so that we all move to one direction.
Now I'm looking at the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. It talks about the Ghana transport operators shooting down any purported increase in transport fares as illegal and in contravention of the administrative instrument on the review of public transport fares in the country. I find it interesting because many of the drivers and the leaders that we've spoken to, do say that you need to do this on the back of the different dynamics. Fuel prices, Duncan Amwa says it will hit 17 cedis soon. The cost of spare parts. Recently, I had to get some spare parts for my car. Trust me, the prices are outrageous. Buying lubricants and others. But I just have a simple question for you. Do you need to increase transport fares as of today, now, as we speak? Do you need to do so?
My brother, thank you so much for this question. You know, there is the need to increase transport fares because, you know, we are doing buy and sell. The same way the DDCs and the OMCs, they go out there to buy the finished product. When they come, the way they get it, they come, they put their profit on it before we also go and buy them. Those that go to buy the spare parts outside the country, when they come, they also put some charges on it, so that after selling them, they also get another money to go and buy and come and sell again. Here is the case with the transporters. When we go out there, like we're speaking, spare parts now, master, you can't buy them. Engine, shock absorber, whatever. Engine oil, battery, everything has gone up. Insurance has gone up. BBLA charges have gone up. So there is a need now to increase transport fares, else we can't continue the business. Let's understand that this is the same business we do to run our home. This is the same business we do to take care of our children, our wives, and whatever. So if you don't increase the transport fares, a time will come we cannot continue with the business because vehicles will get spoiled, and you not even get money to go and fix them. You can't repair the vehicle. You know, let me say this. You see, commuters, their life is in the hands of the drivers. So if the vehicles are not roadworthy and we are forcing ourselves, our tires are not good, and we are forcing ourselves to transport them and all that, should accidents happen, what is going to happen in the country? So we are pleading with the government that there is a need now to increase transport fares. Else, continuing the business will be very difficult for drivers now.
Of course, and I see, my apologies, sure. I see that you're mentioning this because sometimes the drivers would also want to go so quickly and come back because everything is so high. Yeah. And in cutting some of those corners, that is what he's referencing, that sometimes you may have them overzealous and accidents happen. God forbid, we pray that doesn't happen. But I'm just curious about this before Sweetie comes in. You see, if that position you're stating is correct, then I ask myself why the Ghana transport operators are shooting down any purported increase, saying that until a consensus is reached with the Ministry of Transport, any increment should be disregarded. In the past, you have circumvented the process before. And this is signed by Mr. Godfred Abulbire, General Secretary, GPRTU, Mr. Emmanuel Ohene Yeboah, General Secretary, Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, and on behalf of the road transport operators. So what you're saying versus what your union leaders are saying, there's a little dichotomy, difference in there. Clarify for me, and Sweetie will come through with other questions.
Yes, you see, like I said earlier on, you see, we the leadership, we are representing the drivers. And most of the time, we do share their concerns. We ask them how they are doing. You know, this quality that we choose, like four increments they are putting, then things that have in the transport industry before we come out agreement. This is something we have been marketed for all this while. Also, we understand that there are 5 cities. And, you know, let me put this way. Government don't own a vehicle, all right? But then the regulation that we will before we come out increment. That is one statement. By that means that maybe we also say that just we also go and do, you know, that's what we are. But in all, so since we are doing this formality, let's continue with that so that there will be understanding. Else, you see someone say, I'm increasing up to this margin. Another person will also say, I'm increasing up to this margin. Then there will be a confusion. That is why we use one outfit before we come out with an incident.
I like that you said that commuters' lives are in your hands or the hands of drivers. So is it possible that your leaders, union leaders, are trying to find or explore other ways of mitigating the burden on fuel increases on, you know, the cost of doing your business, rather than, or in addition to increasing transport fares? Is it possible that you can explore other means of, you know, finding a way to run your business without increasing the prices by 20%? Is it not a bit much?
My sister, you see, as I'm speaking to you now, if I recall, there was a time we were asking the government to reduce some taxes on the petroleum products because we ourselves, whenever we come out with an increment, it do affect our businesses. Because you find out that most of the short distances, instead of a commuter into our city to border, so they prefer walk because they find out that the charges too high. And when it happens like that, our city, it makes the business go down. So every time they come out with instruments, we do affect us so much. So we wrote to the government, asking the government to reduce some taxes on the petroleum products so that it will not push us to increase our transport fares. Of which, we did all this, but the government, refused to reduce those taxes, and it still remains the same. So as it stands now, there is nothing that we can do done to increase the transport fares. And checking on how the situation is, checking on the cost of fuel, the cost of spare parts and other things, that is why we even came out with the 20%. And let me correct it. Even when we came out with that 20% increment, like 20% proposal to the transport ministry, but then the fuel price has not gone up to this margin. Now, as I'm speaking now, petrol is being sold for 13 cedis, 90 pesos, and diesel for 14 cedis, 74 pesos per liter. When we went in January, when we went for that proposal, when we sent that proposal, it wasn't like this. So even as I'm speaking now, if we are to increase, then to us, it shouldn't be even that 20. It should be more.
About how much? About how much? You say it should be more. About how much?
Yeah, even then we were proposing 30% because of the way the situation is.
Because those in the Western region who were sanctioned,
the fuel price has not gone up to this margin.
Those in the Western region who were sanctioned were actually proposing 30% increment.
And last month, it was 30% too. But Duncan Amwa just joined us. He's the Executive Secretary for Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Duncan, could you clarify how significantly have fuel prices increased and what are some of the factors that is causing this increase? Hello, Duncan Amwa. Duncan, if you're on, you have to... Okay, go ahead, yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, good morning to you and to my brother Abbas. Indeed, they have a case for fair upward adjustment to be done. By what quantum or percentage, I think that should be the discussion. But for anyone to say, well, they shouldn't increase fares at this time, they should find another way of raising money. If a driver currently is doing just 10 gallons the whole day, if they run up and down from morning 4 a.m., 5 a.m., to say 7, 8 p.m., and do just about 10 gallons the entire stretch, they will need to augment their operational expenses by not less than 45 to 50 Ghana cedis every single day. What that would mean for the truck driver is that he needs at least 300 Ghana cedis extra on just fuel if they are able to be able to run around. I don't think it will be fair that we would expect drivers to find the money from wherever to be able to carry all of us to work and back home. So something would have to give, but how much to give, I think is what we would need to probably crank numbers with and maybe help them to be able to be more efficient, to be able to serve our people as we expect. But that question of increasing of transport fares, I think should have been answered some 2 weeks ago. But if it hasn't been answered, it should have been answered, I think, on the 4th of this month, when we decided to double increase fuel prices, which was avoidable anyway. But even be that as it may, if you don't allow them increase today, and you say they should wait, what lies ahead of you is further increases in fuel prices. So Either way, it's either you swallow the pill today or you probably swallow it more after the next pricing window for petroleum. Either way, there would have to be something to give. And I'm asking how much to give. That probably should, for us, be the focus of maybe the discussion by the transport operators as to whether it will be fair to them or not as a people. I think that, well, maybe we should be fair to them because, like Abbas said, they are carrying our life. That is not just goods they carry humans. And so if the driver is working knowing he's going to run into a tight squeeze at the end of the week or the day, we are probably not helping them.
Duncan.
That conversation has got to go down.
Two quick thoughts. So one has to do with the quantum of increment. What do you think? 20% is what they proposed quite a while ago, months back. And now fuel prices, cost of spare parts, other things, basically the logistics have increased. Inflation is on the ascendancy again. What percentage is reasonable? 20%, 30% or more? And there's also this question, you know, they seem to be boxed into a corner where every time they must engage the Ministry of Transport and all of that. It is good for regulatory purposes, but at some point it becomes a bit difficult, realistically, logically, to go by that. How can we make this process more effective and efficient? Two questions for you.
Bro, on percentages, I would, naturally go for what is fair. What is fair so they are able to recover on expenses. The numbers that we have, if they could do about 10 to maximum 15% at this point, they should be able to stay in business. They should be able to offset the price increases at the pump. Anything between 10 to 15 should keep them afloat. The 30% being quoted is rather on the high. And I have said it would simply throw further hardship, not to the politicians against whom they are sometimes peeved because of their inaction or actions that contribute sometimes to increases in fuel prices, increases in spare parts, increases in cost of lubricants, increases in any other logistics associated with, their daily operations. If you talk about import duties now at the port and how much it's costing, you'll be surprised to know that the poor market woman who would board the public transport, the poor Duncan who would have to join the public transport, has no hand at all in fixing import duties at the port. The people who fix these duties, that will make the cost of the vehicle that they would even need to replace very expensive, are not people who join public transport. These are people who would ride their V8 away, would have multiple cars at their disposal. And so when we increase the fares, sometimes with a view to exact some pound of flesh from, the system that is not being fed to us as drivers, we are simply punishing the very people we care about, our mothers, our aunties, our sisters. I have mentioned this. They are the very people who will go to the market and come back and say, oh, the 40 cities was not enough, so we couldn't buy anything. So add something. And it's the same driver, it's the same civil servant, it's the same struggling person who would have to pay. So we may have to be a bit flexible with the people who depend on the services of the public transport operators when it comes to fare adjustment.
All right, and I get the point, because everything
more than
right.
the 15%, you are collecting more from your own people. They will come back to all of us to collect more to be able to pay for whatever that takes them on.
All right.
The second leg of your question,
before you get there, what do you say is corroborated by Nadide, who says, so, and she sends the message on our live stream. So who speaks for the passengers in this case? When the fuel prices dropped drastically, they came up with an excuse, as they always do, why they couldn't reduce transport fares to the level expected. It goes on, but the point being made that when there are reductions, they barely reduce, though I know there have been some minute reductions in the past. But on to the second point. How do we get past this Ministry of Transport, road operators? How do we have a system that maybe naturally, when there is an adjustment to a certain degree, naturally, you know that it should move without having this, oh, let's go and engage the Ministry of Transport. You know, definitely they will not want an increment because of the consequences. How do we regulate it properly?
Let me just be snappy with Nadede's text. She's right. Often when things need to come down in this country, it doesn't. But in the specific instance of the transport operators, I had personally intervened with even the chairman of the GPRTU and the other chairman concerned, committed, or the other driver union a while back to ensure they reduce transport fares. That did happen, and you are aware. So there have been instances where they've also reduced transport fares. They cannot be accurate to say they've never reduced. They have. Except that you may not agree with the quantum, like we don't even agree with the quantum of increments being proposed today. The second conundrum of asking how they would always have to go for negotiation with a certain transport ministry that does not provide them neither logistics nor support. That does not provide them neither shield, nor capacity to even negotiate. It's a big issue. We've said this time without number. You cannot deregulate fuel pricing. You cannot deregulate a market that churns out, as it were, cost of parts independently. You cannot deregulate and allow the port to charge anything it deems appropriate, even for cars deemed to be used for commercial public transport purposes. You cannot allow the system to charge anything it wants. And then when it comes to the end game, where the driver would have to set a price, then we say, come to us at the ministry for us to negotiate. What are we negotiating with them for? What is our input? So if you deregulate fuel prices, you might as well deregulate transport fares. Allow the unions to be responsible, right? In a simple way, like you said, right. When it comes to the petroleum fuel haulage, establishment, there's a simple way they are able to calculate cost per liter per kilometer, right? They are able to calculate that. It's that easy. So when MPA would need to go up on what they call UPPF, we all kind of understand and adjust. Okay. I think unfortunately, we still want to do the human bit, the jaw, or less of 2%, 1%. How scientific is this? We've sent a couple of, data to the transport ministry in the past. Nothing happened. They still want to sit with the drivers and suppress, oppress, convince, whatever, them to accept what the ministry is throwing at them. But how much is the ministry shielding them from increases in fuel costs, increases in cost at the port? Nothing really. So I think sometimes we are not fair to them. And that explains why I have said cardinally that earlier, in the 2000s, all the banks had gone into the transport business. If you recall, AGB, EcoBank came buying back, you recall.
Right.
They could not sustain their operations because the returns are poor. And when that happens, you are making sure a country like ours that is developing, we should have, better fleet of cars for our people. The cars are aging. Go to Cashew. The space bags are not there.
Right. Duncan, everything you've said made a lot of sense. So my only question is, are there opportunities to collaborate, COPEC, GPRTU, ministry, and all that, to find a way to, like you said, shield consumers, commuters from this increase in transport fares? Because we all know that the economy is hard. Are there any opportunities to find some ways to collaborate so that we don't, lump all the cost of everything on the commuters?
You see, it would behoove on the ministry that is asking for equity to put together that kind of, a committee that says, look, what can government give as far as the public transport system are concerned? Okay, oil marketing company, right? The commercial transport operators are huge, like number-based. Is there a way we can get you to look at maybe fuel costs, right? Doing 5% below, fuel costs for them all the time. So we go through a process of documenting every public transport operator and the specific vehicle they are using. So they get to the forecourt, there's a way for the station to be able to authenticate, maybe by some verification, process. He puts a finger, it verifies him, it verifies the vehicle. Whatever he buys, there's a flash of it, right? Maybe the little taxes, mobilization and recovery levy, which we zeroed, that the IMF came in and we said we have restored. Maybe we could have, channeled that specifically to the guys who have a stronger need. If I drive my private car and I have to pay for full cost recovery for fuel, it should be acceptable. If the public transport operator who has to go and carry workers from 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to work and bring them back home has to get a certain relief so as to maintain, some stability in public transport fares, we should be able to work that out. Unfortunately, it is more coming in when they need to increase their fares and saying, look, you have to do this, don't go up. If you go up, people will be suffering. But they are suffering. Nobody cares.
Okay, let me bring back Samuel Duncan this time. The same question. Have these options, have you explored it? You had a series of meetings with the Ministry of Transport and the other players involved. Have you proposed this possible collaboration with them in any of your meetings?
Thank you. This is Samuel Amwa.
Yes,
I overheard you mention Duncan. This is Samuel Amwa.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as you spoke, we've had series of meetings with the Transport Ministry concerning all these issues.
What was their response to this proposal?
Yeah, their response normally, as I said earlier on, January, we had a meeting on January. We had wanted to increase it during January. They asked us to hold on. And from January to this time, let's check on the time frame. So we're complaining to them that anytime they will say we should hold on, it do affect the driver. So they should find a way that whenever the fuel or the other components are being increased to a certain margin, then straight away we increase so that the drivers will not be suffering. But it has been back and front. We have not had a concrete solution for that.
Right. So just for clarity, as it stands, until that meeting takes place on Wednesday, GPRTU is officially not increasing fuel prices, and you're trying to reach out to these floating drivers to try and align with you and wait for the conclusion of that meeting before you can actually increase fuel prices, whether it will be by 20% or less. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. That is exactly what we are doing now. Okay. Hoping that by Wednesday, when we meet, we'll conclude everything. Then we see the percentage margin that we used to come out.
Mr. Amwa, Samuel Amwa, are you, two quick thoughts. Are you currently running at a loss, the drivers? Duncan Amwa suggested something. I just want to find out, your drivers, are they running at a loss when they go and they do the work and at the end of the day they return? Do they make any margins on their work, or are they literally having to top up to be able to make their sales?
My brother, myself, I run transport. I have a vehicle that works for me. Just last week, at the close of the week, when the driver comes, to be honest with you, the driver came complaining that the money or the sales he used to get, he couldn't get that money. And even there was a problem on the car. Even I have to find other means to borrow money from another place before I was able to fix the car back. So as I'm speaking now, the drivers are losing. If someone says he's a transporter, he's a transport operator, and he's making profit, then the person should just come out and explain to us. Every driver is now losing. Seriously.
Would you then be able to justify, Duncan says for him, a 10 to 15% increment is reasonable. Would you be able to justify the 20 to 30% that some of you have proposed? Would you be able to justify it?
Oh, yes, we can do that. We can do that based on the component that earlier on I mentioned. You see, when we first had our increment, let me pick it this way. Let me pick it from the ties that we are using. We were buying Sprinter ties, the home use one. We were buying for 350 Ghana. Now, it's sold for 650 cedis. Oil, spin oil. We were buying engine oil for 95 cedis. Now, it's being sold for 250 cedis. Now, taxes, insurance has increased by 10%. DVLA has also come up. So these are the things that we use before now fuel has gone up. So these are the things that we use to do our calculations. So like if we say we'll go by what we are getting now, then it means that what we are proposing, will be the right percentage that we use.
Well, gentlemen, would have to draw the curtains on the conversation here. We are grateful that he could take the time to join us. Duncan Amwa is Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. He joined the conversation. Samuel Amwa is Deputy PRO with the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. He joined the conversation as well. Interesting times when it comes to...
I pray there's a time that's, we see a time in this country when, regardless of how inflation is whipping us and these drivers, governments can absorb the cost of some of these things. So commuters don't have to feel the heat as much as they do. So that proposal is a step in the right direction. If they can consider it, structure it well, implement it.
I just feel it has become convoluted. It's always like, time as well, on the back of this, we should increase. Then government will be, reluctant because of that. If we had, and that's why I put that question to Duncan, and he has a bit of perspective on it. We should have a mechanism so that once certain parameters hit a certain level, technically, it feeds into it. So there's an adjustment. The drivers don't have to always come and be. And so we would also know and understand so that the fighting in the trotros and the rest will stop. And then government will also know from its end that once these things are happening, so I must tame inflation. I must control fuel prices and all that. Else it will translate. I think then everyone knows their level and his or her level.
Sometimes I feel the pain of these drivers, And then I also feel the pain of commuters. And then you're just in the middle.
I was mentioning engine prices. Trust me, I've had a situation where I've had to. The prices of engines.
I need to buy an engine, Benjamin, as we speak.
Okay, then we are in Charlie. It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyway. Well, Kobby Mensah presents In the Pants of a Woman. Don't let your mind go anywhere. It's a play you can't miss. We'll be bringing you details when the team joins us right after this break. We'll be back.
In the
Welcome back on the AM show. And yes, many years ago, we would have spoken of Kwao Ansah. Well, this is Kobby Mensah presenting In the Pants of a Woman. It's a play you can't miss, and I have my guests in the studio joining me to elaborate on it. Kobby Mensah himself is here. He's a playwright, and he put together In the Pants of a Woman and Melody Abena Pessi. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay. She's an actress. Interesting. Melody and Pessi. There's a rhyme in there. Welcome, Kobby and Melody. In the Pants of a Woman.
Yeah, in the pants of a woman.
You drew my attention. You remember Jedubile Ambule song, Rado Rados? Yeah. you just got my mind to that. But tell me, in the pants of a woman, what gave birth to this? It's an original play.
Yeah.
And you were just sharing with me what it is based on. Tell us about that.
So in the pants of a woman, I wrote that based on observation I've made from society. I noticed that rape is an issue that we don't talk about. So it's one of those abominable topics. And I felt that, okay, then let me put together a play that can highlight the issue and throw more light on what victims go through. Yeah. So that's what gave birth to the pants of a woman.
I see. It's pretty interesting because just yesterday or 2 days ago, I was reading about a horrific incident somewhere in Kenya where a lady was gang raped. I didn't even bother to go for those things. Really trouble my spirit. And apparently 2 of them had been arrested and all of that. But is this something that actually happened? Something that actually happened? This rape incident, or is just based on?
Yes, based on happenings, but not as though what we are going to do actually happened. And it's an original musical.
Right.
So I wrote 16 songs for the play.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're trying to tell the story with music. Yeah, and we're trying to make it as attractive as possible so that it serves as a therapy for anyone who has gone through this, and also serves as a form of education for others who are also going to watch this. Because you notice that there's this rape culture in Ghana that we are not tackling. For example, an adult is raped, and then the first question she's asked is, a child is raped, and then we label them as a spoiled child. So we have a rape culture that helps perpetrators to do what they do and let them go scot-free. Yeah, so we are trying to use this play to highlight what victims actually go through when they experience some of these things. Yeah.
And one thing about musicals, you must be able to sing.
Yeah.
And when you have someone who is called Melody, then it means singing. So should I put you on the spot and try to sing? I shouldn't. I'm very mischievous.
It feels like you know something. He's smiling.
Because I was just putting 2 and 2 together. Musical, and the actress is called Melody. At least one of them. I'm like, okay, nice.
She sings at the theater, so everyone should come there to see.
We should come and listen to the singing. But tell me, as an actress, is this your first stint in?
No, I've been doing more film, but I started stage play with him. So this is actually my second stage play with him.
Oh.
So I'm used to the film.
Okay.
So I switched.
Now you're switching to.
And I realized this
plays.
was more hectic than the film.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
Because
that one, put on the spot. It's a live show. Unlike the film, when you make a mistake, they can cut and take it again. Yeah. But this one, when you make a mistake, everyone is watching you. And you need to be very conversant with your movements on stage and everything. And those are the things that I started learning working with him.
Quick thought. Do you think that makes you an even better actress? From the film point of view?
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
And you can't fluff your lines. If you do, I know usually you have...
No,
because sometimes someone can remind you, but you are literally in the sea.
Yeah. And the whole world is like, there are people there, they bought tickets to come and watch you. Yeah. And sometimes it's a collective thing. You make a mistake and then you ruin the whole month of rehearsal. You get, so like the full energy, the whole team. So this has been really hectic, but I feel it's worth it.
I always say that when it comes to plays, I did something once at the University of Ghana Spanish department, and I missed it. I realized that, Charlie, this one, it's not, be joke matter.
Yeah, it's sexy.
But what was the experience like in the pants of a woman? Tell us, what does this mean to you as a woman yourself?
Okay.
And what's the experience been like?
It means a lot to me because I am a victim of a near rape. And
near rape?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was 9. I didn't know where I got the strength from at that time to drag the person away, because the person was way older than I was. And because of the fear of being asked or being told I was lying, I decided to keep it to myself till date. So, and this person is a relative. So you see this person. So I had it in mind, okay, maybe one day I'll write a book and then put it in. Maybe when the person reads it, maybe the person will reach out or something. Or I feel at that point when you read it, you wouldn't judge me. Or whatever you have to say, I am not there to listen to it. You get, so he bringing this thing, it was like, and I have a lot of friends around me that have also shared their experience. And it will interest you to know that most of the perpetrators are people that are active in the victims' lives.
Yeah, they tend to be close people. Someone shared a story with me recently about this supposedly nice man and everyone, he loved children and all of that. But this person nearly raped her. It took another friend coming into the room because they would go and watch TV there. And this is a confidential matter, so I can't go into detail on it. And that was her salvation. When the person, when she shouted, the person came in and this person had to. It's horrifying. Yeah. I can't even imagine it. That's why I always say that for perpetrators, and it's such a thorny issue.
Unfortunately,
and I'm sorry you had to, experience that. I wish though that you had outed this person, because who knows what else this person may have done, though unsuccessful with you. Yeah. But what else they may have. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have a society that silences victims. Yeah. So this silence of victims also prevents potential victims from even reporting. Because sometimes you even listen to how rape stories are reported on our local media, and it's so disgusting. Yeah.
I do recall somewhere in the northern belt of the country, there was this person who had been a chronic and he would MC programs and all of that. I mean, right now he's in the cooler. But it took quite a bit of intervention, because sometimes, unfortunately, even to the chieftaincy level, someone can be, family. Yeah. No, this is not a family, let's resolve anything.
Yeah, let's solve it at home.
It's not a family matter. Rape is rape. Yeah, rape. I've heard people tell me that they had relatives come and maybe the husband or someone close did something with this person who had come from home, and and it's my husband. So it's really.
That's how we condone all these people, and they keep doing what they keep doing. Unfortunately.
So having gone through this, and I'll come back to you shortly, Kobby. Having gone through this, you're pretty brave to actually put this on show and talk about it. But it's also, I know there are a lot of people listening to you who are taking courage from what you are doing. It's very commendable that you have the courage to come out and show this through, a play. But coming back to you, Kobby, what do you hope to achieve with this? At the end of the day,
a lot.
What do you hope to achieve?
A lot. The first thing is I hope to see reforms. For example, in our laws, I hope to see policy change. Because
but we have pretty rigorous laws when it comes to rape, molestation, and all of that, incest. We have pretty rigorous laws.
For example, you know that when someone is raped and they go to the hospital for
those angles.
Yeah, they have to pay an examination fee, sometimes as high as 900 cedis. If that person is poor, it means that obviously the case is dead on arrival. Yeah, so I hope to see some changes in some of these policies, so that, for example, we can scrap such examination fees. Yeah. And also, I hope to see that.
I thought I'd actually heard something about, a suggestion that they really didn't have to, but I have to check that in terms of the medical examination.
Yeah, and I hope to empower people out there. That's one thing I also want to do this musical. Empower our women, especially out there. That in time you are, someone abuses you, silence. We grew up saying that silence is golden. Silence is not golden when it comes to abuse. You need to be out there, speak about it, voice it out, so that the perpetrator doesn't go abuse others. Because anytime you are silenced, that perpetrator goes around abusing others. Yeah. So we are praying, we are hoping that through this play, others are going to be empowered, and then we have a better society. Yeah.
And also, I think parents also need to create that room for their kids to confide in them. You don't have to be that parent at home where anytime mommy, daddy is coming, I'm scared. Because if someone does this to me, I should be able to go report to my father. Sure. But if you're that kind of parent that anytime you get home, okay, daddy is home, like, let me go and hide, sort of, it wouldn't help. So I'm entreating all parents out there to, yes, you can be strict on your kids, but, on some level, so that if any of these things happen, they can come and then report to you.
Right, so parents must also be open.
Yeah.
But in the storyline, do we see any of this,
yes,
cropping up?
We do. One thing I hope to achieve with this is to have families come and see this. Don't think that it's not an adult content. Let me make that clear, that it's not an adult content. Families can come and see this. Come and see this with their children.
Children can see
this? Yes, can see this. Okay. The children should come and see this so that we can have this open conversation. Because these are conversations we don't have. We never had this conversation when we were growing up. And some of these conversations, because we never had them, some of us could have been abused and we would never have spoken about it. Because how do you even go and tell your dad that someone has done this to me. You don't even know how to start. But if this conversation is held at home, it becomes a very good place for children to also voice out in case they are abused. And that is what I want us to achieve with this, having that family conversation on sexual abuse, sexual assaults, and anything regards to abuse.
You know, it starts from the very outset. That's how I see it. The very point where we teach children not to refer to their genitalia by name.
Yeah.
I think it starts from right there. Right. Oh, wakantamanto. Why can't you mention? You call eye. You call nose. Or when they win. Edru honso dia. Oh, wakantamanto.
Yes, it starts from there. You call them as they are.
So right from the outset, children are programmed, don't even go there. Don't even talk about it. It's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
It's a problem.
It is.
So when something does happen, they find it difficult to now come and tell you that someone, I don't know whether that was your experience, but I mean, it's the reality generally. And I feel that is part of the...
And we'll be amazed how many children are going through this, but they've never opened up to anyone. Like she said, why didn't she open up to her parents at that age?
Right. At 9.
Yeah.
So just to cap off the conversation, I'll come to you for your final thoughts. Okay. But where is this happening? When is it happening? What's the time? What should people look forward to? Is it paid? Is it?
Yes. So it's happening next weekend. That's 20th and 21st, Saturday, Sunday, at National Theatre.
20th and 21st, April.
April. 3 p.m., 7 p.m. on each day. We are doing something interesting this time. We are bringing students from Mampong School of the Deaf and Ekropong School of the Blind to come and see this, and then we come with a deaf interpreter because we want to amplify our message. We want to have everyone have access to this message, not only for the able, but even for the disabled.
Right.
Yeah, so it's happening next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, 3 p.m., 7 p.m., National Theatre. Anyone who wants to get a copy, grab a ticket can dial *844 *300#.
Please slow down.
*844 *300#.
One last time.
*844 *300# to grab a ticket.
All right.
And it's something you can't afford to miss.
All right.
You can't afford to miss at all. Yeah, so much entertainment, so much to learn as well, and so much to think about.
Kudos to you. I always say that there's a lot of talk and social media and all of that, but a lot of the time people are not talking about really salient issues. It's all about the fluff and Oshatadia bang, Chika bang, and Ekosise. But this is something really good that you're talking about, touching on, and we commend you for that. Final words, Melody?
Family, friends, corporate organizations, everyone, we invite you to the National Theatre next weekend to come and watch our play. See, your life will not be the same.
Right. And kudos to you as well, one more time, for doing this. Kobby Mensah is a playwright. He wrote In the Pants of a Woman. It's an original musical. It's a play, and it's coming off 20th and 21st of this month. Melody Abenapesi, yes, melodious name. She's also an actress in this. Right before we go, 3 things I'm going to do. 1, to salute Sally France for giving me this lovely outfit. I keep saying this lady didn't even, she saw me, she just took a look at me and sewed some of these things for me for free. Isn't my outfit lovely?
Yeah, it's
awesome.
It's lovely, right?
Yeah.
So Sally France, she says strings to fashion. You can locate her in Dansoman Estates. Her phone number, 0542 085 587. 0542 085 587. If you'd like something as lovely as I am donning. I also noticed that a message came through. Let me get to this one. Here we go very quickly. So please wish, that's the request from Professor Japong, Dr. Nanefia Japong of Tema Community 2, and that is Professor Japong's daughter, former Vice Chancellor of the University for Health and Allied Sciences. He says, a happy birthday to her. I don't know. Okay, so I didn't see the end of the message, but I've already put it out there, Prof. So Dr. Nanefia Japong of Tema Community 2, happy birthday from your dad and from the rest of us. But right before we go, in fact, this is how I conclude before we get into Joy News Desk. We've been bringing you our photo of the day. Here is today's photo of the day. And there you have it. We've been showing you pictures of how people transport themselves. And God knows if that barrel if that barrel, moves in any direction, that boat could capsize or something of the sort. But that's the Black Volta. And another shot from our very own Caleb, who has been touring the northern belt of the country, bringing us some of these wonderful photographs. One, you would see them in an abubuya, so many of them packed together because of a lack of transportation. Well, that's how far God has brought us. We're grateful to you, Sweetie Abochi, and yours truly, that you've taken the time to join us. Up next is Joy News Desk. You want to stay for that.